Good morning po, ladies and gentlemen. I believe tayo po ay magsisimula na. It is with great honor that I welcome everyone to the very last day of our CocoKwentuhan Webinar Series 2021 in celebration of the 35th National Coconut Week. Negosyanteng maniniyog, kaagapay tungo sa maunlad na ekonomiya. Sa huling araw po na ito, ang ating tatalakayin ay ang addressing the supply-demand gap. Sa Masaganang ani at mataas na kita ni Juan, Siyensya at Teknolohiya ang kailangan. Araw-araw po, iba-iba ang ating tinatalakay. And so far, it has been very, very productive. So today, hoping for another fulfilling and insightful series of discussions. But before we begin, we would like to start with an opening prayer. So let us all to the presence of our Lord.
Dear Almighty God, Father of all, we thank you for this day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to gather here today as we celebrate the 35th Coconut Month. In this Coconut Webinar Series, we humbly ask you to bless each and every one of us, especially our coconut farmers to whom we dedicate this celebration. As we face this time of pandemic, our coconut farmers' welfare is at risk more than ever. We ask you to shower us today with your wisdom during our lectures and discussions that we may find the best possible solution in every challenges the coconut industry faces. We also seek your guidance as we go on in this event, that we achieve our goal for this gathering to help our coconut farmers engage into agripreneurship in order to attain economic development in the industry. Your Holy Spirit will ensure the success of this event through the enactment of the knowledge acquired from this activity. May the participants, especially our coconut farmers, benefit from this activity and evolve into agripreneurs. We ask all this in the name of Jesus, our God and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, let us move along with our program. But first, where are my manners? No? Good morning po. Ako nga po pala si Leo. Ang inyong MC para sa araw at sa linggong ito. And today, we will be going on a journey. No? Aaralin nga natin kung ano nga ba ang mga possible na issues and how we can actually develop the supply and demand gap. How we can make it better for all involved in our industry. Moving along, paalala ko lang po na tayo po ay live via Facebook and YouTube. Doon po sa mga hindi nakasali sa atin via Zoom at hindi nakapag-register, last day na po today, we try to remind everyone na pwede po kayong mag-register araw-araw. But this being the last day, abangan na lang po natin ang pag-up ng live on YouTube and Facebook. At para sa mga nasa Zoom ngayon, let's try to break that record. No? Kung may kilala po kayo na nag-register and wala pa po sila dito sa ating room, just remind them, all right? Yesterday, we were at more than 200 in the same room. 200 po. So, lahat po tayo may chance na sumali sa Q&A mamaya. So, ayun, to remind you of our mechanics and house rules sa CocoKwentuhan, let us hear a few words in this video as prepared by our own D.A. Early Manohar, CocoKwentuhan Chair.
Good morning! Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Welcome to the CocoKwentuhan 2021 Webinar Series. For the mechanics of the webinar, a keynote speaker will deliver a message about the topic. After the message, presenters will showcase a 20-minute video presentation and record the discussion of their success stories. Only after all presentations that the reactor will give insights about the presentations, not more than 20 minutes. Then after the reactor, a Q&A session to follow using the chat functions and to be facilitated by the moderator. Only registered participants can join in the discussion. Rapporteurs shall be the one to feed the moderator inquiries through chat. All non-registered viewers can view the webinar live through the official Facebook page of Philippine Coconut Authority. For our house rules, first, all participants are reminded to keep microphones on mute when someone else is presenting or speaking. Second, be mindful of the background noise to ensure clarity during discussions. Turning on the video when raising question is highly encouraged for proper documentation. Thank you po. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Niyog-niyogan tayo. Buko-buko ang buhay ko. Pilipinas, halika na. Nasa paligid lamang ang iyong hinahanap. Huwag mag-alinlangan, huwag nang mangamba. Ang puno ng buhay ay pag-asa. Magtanim ka lang ito, tiyak ikaw ang siyang panalo. Walang matatalo, ito ang sigurado. Ang puno ng buhay ang ating pag-asa. Halika na, magtanim at simula. Niyog-niyugan, niyog-niyugan tayo para sa kinabukasan. Buko-buko ang buhay ko, tungo sa kaginhawaan. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, saan ka man ay mayroon yan. Ang buko-niyog ang siyang pinagkutunan ng sambayanan ng pangangailangan. Niyog-niyugan, niyog-niyugan tayo para sa kinabukasan.
Okay, thank you so much, DA Erlene. As you saw, ladies and gentlemen, nandun na po ang paano po paggamit ng Q&A and chat functions mamaya. We will remind you once more when our discussion is opened up. But for now, let us hear an inspiring message to set the tone and to give us a direction for this last day of discussions. Let's all hear from our own beloved Honorable William D. Dar, Secretary of Agriculture and Chairman of PCA Board.
Good day to all. First, I'd like to greet the Negosyo partners who are joining this webinar, the presenters of the success stories, the agripreneurs, the private sectors, LGUs, leaders, policymakers, advocates of the coconut industry, and honored guests. Isang mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat. This is the second webinar as a major activity of the National Coconut Week of 2021 celebration, using the virtual platform due to the new normal situation under the pandemic. However, despite these hurdles, we relentlessly pursue this activity to circulate and share the elements of CocoNegosyo success stories. Sa araw na ito, hayaan ninyo akong bigyang pugay ang ating mga bayani sa Nyugan, mga nagtiyaga at nagpakahirap para makamtan ang pag-asa na galing sa Coco Levy. Matagal silang naghintay at umasa na darating ang biyayang ito na sa kanila rin nagmula. Ito ang magiging pundasyon ng pagbabago sa industriya ng pagnyanyog at makakaasa kayo sa paggabay at suporta ng gobyerno at pribadong sektor isang magandang tema ng CocoKwentuhan, may kabuluhan at pakikinabangan para sa kabuhayan at pagkakitaan. Sa aking panunungkulan bilang kalihim ng agrikultura, ang ani at kita ay ang konsepto na naging sandigan ng mga programa ng agrikultura. Ang industriya ng pagniniyog ay isa sa pangunahing industriya na may malaking kontribusyon sa ating ekonomiya, subalit nakakalungkot na marami sa ating mga magniniyog ay nananatili sa poverty level. Ang solusyon ay pagbabago sa estratehiya at sama-samang pagbalangkas ng mga programa na tututok sa kapakanan ng sektor at sisiguraduhin na pantay na benepisyo para sa lahat. Naniniwala po ako na coconut farmers need not be poor at ito ay matutupad kung sila ay mabibigyan ng pagkakataon and be guided sa pagnenegosyo at kalaman sa mga teknolohiya. Ang webinar na ito ay magsisilbing inspirasyon ng maraming magninyog na magkakaroon na ng pagkakataon na maging negosyante sa tulong ng gobyerno at suporta ng pribadong sektor. Partnership, consolidation, convergence, at commitment ang susi sa tagumpay na ito. Rin ang direksyon ng mga programa sa ilalim ng Coco Levy Trust Fund Act. Ang mga pagbabagong ito ang magiging tulay sa pagangat ng coconut industry na may layunin na hindi maiiwan ang mga maliliit na magninyog at manggagawa sa nyugan sa pag-unlad ng industriya. Sama-samang pagsisikap ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno, private sectors, policymakers, at kaming mga leader sa agrikultura ay laging handa sa paggagabay at pagsusuporta sa inyong mga adhikain tungo sa pag-unlad. I'd like to commend PCA for organizing this event. I hope this will spark the enthusiasm of our coconut stakeholders, and the success stories will serve as models for emulation. Hindi ito nagtatapos ang kwentuhan. Nararapat na ang mga ito ay isakatuparan upang ang tagumpay ay makamtan. Maraming salamat at mabuhay kayong lahat.
Maraming salamat po. Once more, that is Secretary Dar giving us some insight. No? Siniset niya po yung ating expectations, and tama po siya, hindi po sa CocoKwentuhan nagtatapos. This is where we discuss, this is where we talk about it, pero may action po yan na sumusunod. Every day. To our beloved administrator here at PCA, former highest official of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. He is leading the charge in making sure that the National Agency for Coconut and Palm Oil Development is in good hands. Ladies and gentlemen, the administrator of the Philippine Coconut Authority, General Benjamin Madrigal Jr.
Thank you, Leo. To our keynote speaker, whom I'll have the honor of introducing later, our Secretary of the Department of Agriculture and the Chairman of the PCA Board, Secretary William B. Dar, my fellow workers in the Department of Agriculture and the Philippine Coconut Authority, our distinguished discussants in today's webinar, our distinguished reactor, Dr. Ray Iborra, and to our participants and netizens viewing via Zoom and Facebook Live. Isang masagana at mapagpalang Biyernes ng umaga po sa ating lahat. Our keynote speaker for the last episode of the CocoKwentuhan sa Negosyo is an engineer and professor who has spent most of his career in the advancement of science and technology in the country, having worked with the Department of Science and Technology for more than 37 years. He has also served as National President of Philippine Institute of Chemical Engineers, the Association of Management and Industrial Engineers, the Association for the Advancement of Science and Technology. He is also former chairman of the United Nations Commission on Science and Technology for Development and became the longest serving president of the National Research Council of the Philippines. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering, Master's degree in Industrial Engineering, and a PhD in Business Administration, all from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He also received a diploma in Industrial Quality Control from both Centrum International Education in Netherlands and Operations Research at New York University Tandon School of Engineering. Under his leadership, the Department of Science and Technology rallied behind the mantra, "Science for the people," a call to action that resonates in the programs and projects that has been launched in his administration. One of his key priorities for the agriculture sector is the agenda of reinvigorating the coconut industry through new technologies for hybridization, planting and replanting, pest management and disease prevention, and coconut-based processing. With his background and vast experience that I have mentioned, here to provide the keynote message to today's topic on addressing supply and demand gap. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you our keynote speaker for today, PCA Board Member and Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, Secretary Fortunato Boy Tanseco de la Peña.
Distinguished officials, co-members of the Philippine Coconut Authority Board, Administrator Benjamin Madrigal, our coconut farmers and stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen who joined us today in this webinar, I would like to greet all of you a very pleasant morning. The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, commends the PCA for holding a week-long webinar series known as CocoKwentuhan sa Negosyo in celebration of this year's National Coconut Month. It is my pleasure to be part of the last day of the celebration with the topic Addressing Supply-Demand Gap Sa masaganang ani at mataas na kita ni Juan, Siyensya at Teknolohiya ang kailangan. Through the years, coconut has been a dominant part of the Philippine agricultural landscape, with a steadily growing global demand for raw and its diversified value-added products. The country, for one, enjoys a high demand for both traditional and novel products like bottled buko water, coconut sugar, and virgin coconut oil or BCO. However, local coconut production has declined over the past decade. Despite having coconut producers in 69 out of the 82 provinces in the country, the coconut industry struggles to regain its position as the top producer of coconut in the global market. Several factors hinder the full potential of the industry. A significant portion of the 3.6 million hectare coconut growing areas has aging trees and low-yielding coconut varieties. Frequent typhoons damage the existing stands, and pest and disease incidents remain pervasive. Only a small percentage of Filipino farmers apply recommended farm management practices. And most unfortunately, land tenure problems and multi-layered marketing channels discourage coconut farmers, resulting in land conversion and a decrease in the number of next generation coconut farmers. Nonetheless, there is a constant clamor to revamp the sector and move the Philippine coconut industry forward. An industry that will be competitive, progressive, sustainable, and modernized. The Department of Science and Technology has been a long-time partner in providing science and technology solutions to the country's coconut industry. We have consistently provided support in addressing the gaps and challenges in the coconut sector through the integration of our various R&D and innovation efforts across the entire supply chain of coconut. Through the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources R&D, or PICARD of DOST, the Industry Strategic S&T Program, or ISP for coconut, was among the priority industries provided with the highest R&D investment to generate science and technology-based solutions to improve the welfare of the coconut farmers and the industry. DOST PICARD has collaborated with PCA and expanded its implementing networks with other state universities and colleges, R&D agencies, and local government units in carrying out various programs and projects towards a more competitive and sustainable coconut industry. The convergence of several technologies was supposed to increase coconut productivity. This includes conservation and utilization of coconut genetic resources, farm productivity, crop improvement through conventional and molecular breeding, and product diversification and processing. DOST PICARD has supported programs and projects on the identification and recommendation of hybrid and open pollinated varieties or OPVs for commercial production of BCO and soft sugar, and novel uses of the makapuno galactomannan. Innovative approaches through genomics and genetics are adopted for varietal improvement and molecular breeding of coconut varieties for high yield and quality copra oil and byproducts and insect resistance. Management protocols for the control of diseases and pests, particularly the coconut scale insects, or CSI, or cocolisa, were developed, thereby arresting its further spread and saving millions of affected coconut trees. 3 valuable technologies were also generated to rehabilitate our existing coconut plantings. First, the Coconut Embryo Cultured Makapuno Technology or ECM. Second, the Coconut Somatic Embryogenesis Technology or CSET. And third, the Coconut Hybridization Program. ECM, now a well-adapted technology, is being given continuous assistance by the DOST Regional Office Number 4 or Calabarzon in the production and processing of secondary food and non-food products. CSET, on the other hand, focuses on mass propagation using plurimular tissues of outstanding coconut population, while the Coconut Hybridization Program aims to augment the capacity of the PCA Seed Production Center. The Department of Science and Technology has also been providing R&D support in the country's fight against the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19, while also maximizing the utilization and exploring the potential enterprise of coconut value-added products. The DOST's Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, or PCHRD, the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, or FNRI, and our DOST Calabarzon, in collaboration with the Philippine Coconut Authority, Ateneo de Manila University, the local government of Santa Rosa, City Laguna, and the Philippine General Hospital in UP Manila, explored the potential of VCO as an adjunct therapy for COVID-19. Months of clinical trials in Laguna proved that VCO is an effective dietary supplement to significantly reduce signs and symptoms of mild and asymptomatic COVID-19 cases, as observed among patients who were served meals with VCO as compared with the control group. Additional tests will be conducted among these cases to look into its immunoregulatory enhancement. Likewise, a different trial among a group of severe COVID-19 patients at UPPGH is still ongoing, wherein VCO is directly administered to patients. Actually, the trials have ended, so they're in the analysis stage. As we follow on this development, we are hopeful that a potential increase in the demand for VCO as an antiviral agent will propel as we curb the pandemic. Moreover, the DOST's Industrial Technology and Development Institute recently developed hand and body lotion and cream enriched with VCO to supplement the sanitation protocol on COVID-19. Another project was initiated with DOST Picard's Good Agri-Aqua Livelihood Initiatives towards national goals, or the Galing Picard contra COVID-19 program, to optimize the coconut ethanol production protocol to lower the cost of producing it in the country and assess the market viability of the coconut ethanol-based hand sanitizers enterprise. Simultaneously, identified farmer cooperators from selected coconut growing regions will be beneficiaries of the ethanol stills fabricated by the PCA Zamboanga Research Center. They will be trained on the production of coconut ethanol-based hand sanitizers for commercial distribution in their area. There is a collective belief among government agencies and industry stakeholders that we can still make a positive change by providing more focused, strategic science and technology solutions. At the DOST, we believe that the R&D efforts on increasing the supply of raw materials, optimizing production strategies, empowering the farmers and SMEs through technical assistance, and strengthening institutional linkages among government and coconut stakeholders will bridge the supply and demand gap and magnify the competitive advantage of the Philippine coconut industry. With the recent passing of Republic Act 11524, otherwise known as the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act, the management and utilization of the Coconut Levy Fund will expedite the delivery of benefits due to smallholder coconut farmers and sustain the development of the industry. DOST Picard is among the identified agencies tasked to implement programs under the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan, or CFIDP, specifically on research on the deployment of hybrid coconut seed farms and nurseries for planting and replanting. A total of 5% annual allocation from the trust fund is appropriated to the council or to the card to be disbursed for the implementation of identified research projects on hybridization. The national average yield of coconut is currently at 45 nuts per tree per year, which is below, way below, the production capacity of other coconut producing countries. PCA has bred 15 single cross hybrids, which yield thrice as much as the national average, provided that fertilization and farm maintenance are sustained. Maximizing the use of available technologies while also exploring new areas of innovation will enable socioeconomic growth and development across coconut growing provinces. Over the past months, the Council has conducted several consultation meetings with researchers and stakeholders from various state universities and colleges, PCA regional offices, and the CFIDP planners to identify and prioritize R&D initiatives that will be included in the roadmap of the hybridization program. Among the initially identified research programs for hybridization will focus on crop production and physiology studies, crop protection, farming systems, germplasm improvement, and breeding, as well as product diversification and processing. In cooperation with the Philippine Coconut Authority or PCA, the Coconut Hybridization Program shall ensure the continuous production, distribution, and planting of quality planting materials produced using parental materials with potential traits and registered with the National Seed Industry Council. Likewise, these NSIC accredited farms and nurseries, a source of planting materials of both hybrids and parental materials, will be strategically located across all coconut growing regions of the country to reduce logistics costs and minimize the risk of probable spread of pests and diseases. Available technologies will be fully utilized to increase and ensure the stable supply of hybrids and outstanding OPVs for the massive planting and replanting. Innovative technologies will be further developed to support the hybridization program and the improvement of the existing seed farms to produce high-quality planting materials. These R&D efforts will be complemented by technology transfer and information, education, and communication materials in print and digital form, so to reach as much public awareness, appreciation, and utilization of available local technologies, and subsequently encourage our farmers to embrace the culture of science and innovation. Along with all other agencies tasked to redress the coconut sector through the Coconut Levy Fund, it is envisioned that a boost in the country's coconut industry will redound to the benefit of our coconut farmers. Rest assured that the Department of Science and Technology will continue its science and technology support to the entire local industry by providing enabling interventions, innovations, and strategies. We will continue to partner with PCA and the numerous R&D institutions in pioneering the development of more technologies that will improve the lives of Filipino coconut farmers and advance our ranking in the global coconut market. I hope that the exchange of knowledge in this webinar will deliver lasting impact. I wish this activity a success, and may we all remain steadfast in supporting the coconut industry, particularly the millions of Filipinos who are depending on it. Thank you, and mabuhay ang industriya ng niyog.
Maraming salamat po. Once more, our keynote speaker, Honorable Secretary Fortunato T. de la Peña. I believe up next, we are going to be hearing another message as delivered by one of our presenters. Ang topic po natin muli sa araw na ito, addressing the supply and demand gap. Sa masaganang ani at mataas nakita ni Juan, Siyensya at Teknolohiya ang kailangan. And our presenters for today are an esteemed batch as well. There are 3 main presenters for today's topics at lahat po sila ay may i-discuss na, as mentioned po by our keynote speaker, in the realm of technological advances, no? Nabanggit niya po ang potential ng VCO na lumaban sa COVID. Meron po tayong hybridization programs and research and development in the field of the coconut industry. But first, I believe we will be hearing from our first presenter. Our first presenter has a few messages and words before we begin. For that, I would like to call on our Deputy Administrator for Operations Branch at PCA, DA Roel Rosales.
Thank you, Leo. Good morning to our esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we shall discuss the Philippine Coconut Authority's hybridization program as a focused long-term program of coconut productivity improvement, supported by the necessary infrastructure as well as strengthened technical and support services. In this presentation, we shall highlight the gains of science and technology and how such development was able to and will be able to boost incomes of coconut smallholders through improved coconut yields. We go further in this discussion by showing possible areas of investments, collaboration, and engagement of the coconut farming sector, the private processing and manufacturing enterprises with the Philippine Coconut Authority. For one, hybrid coconut seed production is a skilled field activity that requires careful management skills and close supervision. Thus, we hope that this presentation will pave the way to transform the PCA's hybridization program to a viable commercial and even as a commercial enterprise among the coconut farmers and the private sector to ensure the sustainability of the coconut industry. And with that, may I ask the Secretariat to show our audience the presentation on the coconut hybridization program. Thank you very much.
The Coconut Hybridization Program is being implemented to produce and make available superior planting materials. PCA has developed 15 hybrids registered with the National Seed Industry Council. Hybrids have the potential to yield 4 to 6 tons of copra per hectare annually, or 114 to 155 nuts per palm per year. Hybrids are good for the production of high-value products like coconut sap, sugar, virgin coconut oil, young tender coconuts, fiber. The CHP aims to strengthen the coconut supply chain. Coverage of the program are production of high-quality hybrid planting materials through assisted pollination technique, strategic planting of quality coconut hybrids, and open pollinated varieties for hybridization, and focused interventions for ensuring high productivity. Under the production of hybrid planting materials, it involves hybridization of mother palms using the assisted pollination technique in PCA seed gardens and in on-farm hybrid production sites, establishment of state universities and colleges and private hybrid seed farms, and establishment and maintenance of pollen processing units, including the mapping, maintenance, and utilization of outstanding parental palms for hybridization. In strategic planting and replanting, it involves nursery raising, planting or replanting in suitable areas of certified coconut hybrids with nutrient support. Lastly, for the focused intervention, it involves capacity building for PCA field personnel, farmer beneficiaries and hybridization, and farm service crew on assisted pollination technique, good agricultural practices, and good nursery practices. Modernization of PCA seed farms, including infrastructure development like roads, fencing, storage and laboratory facilities, irrigation system, automatic weather station, and investment on vehicles, including support for on-farm research. Institutional development for strengthening of STRATCOM and information management system. The female parents of the hybrids are the 3 recommended dwarf varieties which are commonly planted in farmers' field. These are Takunan Green Dwarf, Katigan Green Dwarf, and the Malayan Red Dwarf. These varieties could yield 80 nuts per palm annually. The recommended male parents, which are tall varieties, consisted of Baybay, Tagnanan, Bago Oshiro, and Laguna Tall, which are local varieties, and 3 foreign accession, namely Tahiti, Renal, and West African Tall. Presented just the 3 parental palms. There are 15 possible hybrid crosses that could be produced and will have any of the 3 recommended dwarf palms like Takunan, Katigan, and Malayan Red Dwarf as the female parents, and will present here 5 of these hybrid crosses. The first and second hybrid crosses that PCA developed were PCA 15-1, which is a cross between Katigan Dwarf and Laguna Tall, and PCA 15-2, which is a cross between Malayan Red Dwarf and Tagnanan Tall, and could yield 117 and 155 nuts per palm annually respectively. The third hybrid cross is PCA 15-3, which is a cross between Malayan Red Dwarf and Baybay Tall, which could yield 114 nuts per palm annually. PCA 15-4 is a cross between Katigan Dwarf and Tagnanan Tall, and could yield 144 nuts per palm annually. The 15 PCA developed hybrids, which are registered with the National Seed Industry Council, will start to flower in 3 to 4 years, hence producing nuts in 4 to 5 years. The nut size is medium to large, which are preferred by farmers and processors alike. The annual palm productivity range from 114 to 155 nuts, which could easily produce 4 to 6 tons of copra. Side use of hybrid seed nut production. In-house hybrid seed nut production. Production of hybrids in 7 PCA research seed production centers planted to recommended parental palms. On-farm hybrid seed production. This strategy will be wholly managed by PCA following the APT to augment supply of hybrids. Hybridization in selected farmers' field planted with suitable mother palms, at least 1 hectare planted area. Mother palms between 7 to 25 years are preferred for efficiency in hybrid production. Sites not prone to aberrant climatic condition are preferred, free from pest infestation. The farmers and private sectors could invest in the production of hybrid seed nuts by utilizing existing plantings of recommended dwarf mother palms for hybridization or by establishing their own seed farms. The requirements for hybrid seed nuts in the next 5 to 6 years is around 20 million, which would require an additional 67,000 mother palms for hybridization. Enterprising group can also venture into the processing of pollen for hybridization. Around 26,000 outstanding tall palms as male parents are required to meet the pollen requirement. To produce a kilogram of pollen would require 40,000 pesos. Technique in hybrid production on assisted pollination technique. First is emasculation, the process of removal of male flowers in inflorescence. Second, pollination, the application of the pollen to receptive female button. Lastly, harvesting of matured nuts. Let's watch the detailed process of hybridization.
Organization of personnel. An organized team of sufficiently trained personnel must consist of pollen collectors, pollen processors, emasculators, pollinators, and inspector. Efficiency of one is checked by the other. Example, the pollinator checks the emasculator and vice versa. The inspector reports immediately to the supervisor in charge any irregularity he sees for rectification. Selection of male and female parents. Parental materials are chosen on the basis of their phenotypic characters and genetic potential, as well as vegetative and reproductive growth performance. Harvesting or collection of male flowers. Harvesting of spikelets bearing the mature male flowers is done 6 to 7 days after the natural opening of the spade. Stripping of male flowers. Male flowers are detached from the spikelets. They are collected in plastic basins. Weigh fresh male flowers prior to cracking and after drying to get the moisture content. Cracking of male flowers. The separated male flowers are cracked and placed thinly over galvanized and aluminum trays. Rolling a baker's bin over the flowers in the tray does cracking. Drying of male flowers. Drying is done in artificially heated room with a temperature of about 40 degrees Celsius for 36 hours. Cracking of male flowers is done after drying. Sifting and storage of pollen. The dried flowers are placed in a 200 mesh brass sieve to separate the pollen grains from male floral parts. The pollen grains are collected in plastic bags or any suitable containers at 5 grams per pack for sealing and subsequent storage in a freezer with a temperature of -20 to 25 degrees Celsius. Pollen yield. Using this scheme can easily produce an average of 225 grams of pollen per cycle of collections per drying room with an average of 48% viability. Isolation of female flowers. Knowing the right stage of emasculation is when the female flowers bulge a little at the basal portion of the spade, and the spade has turned from yellow-green to yellow-orange for Malayan red dwarf, and from dark green to pale green for Takunan dwarf and Katigan dwarf. Emasculation is done 3 to 4 days before the natural opening of the spade. Spade is forced open and removed. The spikelets are cut 3 to 4 cm above the female flowers. The remaining male flowers are then carefully removed by hand. Pollination is done as soon as the female flowers start becoming receptive and continuously up to the end of the female phase. The desired ratio is 1:8, 1 part pollen and 8 part talcum. Spraying of pollen should not be against the wind direction. Indexing and marking. Indexing is done after a nut reaches feed size. Nuts are thinned, maintaining 8 to 10 nuts per bunch, and painted with dark color for hybrid identification. Harvesting. Harvest seed nuts having color break to brown color and slashing sound of water can be heard. Separate nuts for purity test in sack with the name of the emasculator. Bring the seed nuts to the nursery and place in shaded area for seasoning and sacking. Purity testing. Purity test is done to estimate the ratio of hybrid versus inbreed. Up to 3% inbreed or contamination is allowed in assisted pollination technique.
Yes, we'd like to thank the Zamboanga Research Center for that engrossing presentation on the detailed procedures on hybridization, just to be able to perk up interest and awareness also in this program of government to increase coconut yields, thereby ensuring that the farmers will be the end beneficiary of increased yields and incomes. We think that the coconut hybridization program is something that the private sector and the coconut farming sector should look forward to in the next decades. Because as discussed by our guest of honor, the hybridization program is one of the main components for productivity under the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act. So indeed, the future looks good as regard the coconut hybridization program as a commercial enterprise and partnership between government, the farming sector, and the private sector. With that, I thank everybody for the attention that they've given this very special project, the Coconut Hybridization Project. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po once more, DA Roel Rosales, Deputy Administrator for Operations Branch at PCA. Yun po ang current strides in the realm of coconut hybridization. Tumungo naman po tayo sa isang very important topic rin. We've heard this mentioned several times throughout CocoKwentuhan throughout the week. And to discuss VCO against COVID, how it can potentially help the situation with the global pandemic, we would like to hear from the director and scientist at DOST, Food and Nutrition Research Institute. Let's all hear the discussion on VCO against COVID as led by Dr. Imelda A. Agdepa.
Pleasant morning to everyone. A pleasant morning to everyone, to all the participants in this virtual forum. When something unexpected, such as a global pandemic, hits our country, we were shocked and we do not know how and when to start right. What interventions, strategies, policies must be installed. But we still have questions lingering in our mind. Is or are the actions done at the outset the right strategy? Initiated right in the middle of the COVID-19 chaos, this could study on the use of virgin coconut oil as an adjunct supplement for suspect and probable COVID-19 patients was proven to normalize C-reactive protein, a known marker of inflammation, and had accelerated the diminishing of the COVID-19 symptoms. Why VCO? But by how much and how often, and what's next? So the effects of virgin coconut oil among suspect and probable cases of COVID-19 was actually implemented. Once again, a pleasant morning to everyone, and thank you for inviting us in this forum. The authors declare that they have no known competing financial interests or personal relationships that could have appeared to influence the work in this presentation. Let me just have a flashback. In March 2020, some, if not all of us, were plotting summer plans when suddenly a lockdown, that tiny thing that is causing our fear as early as the last quarter of 2019, has already reached our shores. Truly, the COVID-19 pandemic, a major challenge that our country is facing until today, a challenge that we never thought we will experience for so long, if not in our lifetime. They say that in times of uncertainty, it is inevitable, just normal, to trust our instincts. Please allow me to frame the rationale of this project from the context of flight or fight response. We usually say that when we are faced with unexpected situations, our instincts undergo 3 stages: alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. When threatened, we experience fear. Takot ang una po nating nararamdaman. In the context of COVID-19, we fear for our lives. We are doing our best not to get the virus. We literally wrap ourselves with protection. I think, if I may state, something positive that happened about this pandemic is our sense of vigilance was introduced into our way of life. However, in the middle of it all, we ask ourselves, mayroon ba agarang solusyon? Are there urgent mitigation strategies? What science can do in time when we are caught flat-footed at wala pang bakuna? One of the immediate responses of the Department of Science and Technology through the Food and Nutrition Research Institute is to redefine resistance by initiating a collaborative project. As an important forward, hindi ito nagawa ng DOST-FNRI ng mag-isa lang. The VCO for COVID-19 project is a partnership initiated by the Philippine Coconut Authority of the Department of Agriculture, City of Santa Rosa, Laguna, DOST Calabarzon, and the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Just in time, as we search for answers, like-minded individuals came up with a set of R&D initiatives to provide solutions utilizing local and readily available commodities, thus the virgin coconut oil. Why virgin coconut oil? Why not coconut, right? So in 2019, the United Coconut Association of the Philippines and the VCO Producers and Traders Association came up with the statistics. And according to them, we Filipinos consume 470 metric tons of VCO that year. That was on top of the figures stating that we have exported around 20,000 metric tons of VCO in 2019 alone. Something that we all can relate to is the fact that VCO is a popular domestically and globally available because of its health and nutritional attributes. It is generally recognized as safe, and it has significant amounts of essential fatty acids and antioxidants. And basing from the mounting evidence of VCO was proven to have antiviral properties based on earlier studies. Earlier studies attributed the antiviral properties of VCO to its active ingredients, monolaurin and lauric acid. Lauric acid, a medium-chain fatty acid, makes up almost half of the coconut oil, meaning it is the predominant component of VCO. VCO also has monolaurin, which might not be available from the VCO bottle you just purchase or you will be purchasing, but will be produced by the body once we ingest VCO. In a smaller fraction, VCO also has sodium lauryl sulfate, which is as a surfactant or increased spreading of or wetting properties, which is also known to contribute to VCO's antiviral properties. So now the question is, how can these active ingredients become potent antiviral agents? Now, first, these ingredients destroy the viral membrane or the covering of the virus. In 1982, Herholzer showed that monolaurin can reduce the effectivity of about 14 human RNA and DNA enveloped virus to as high as 99.9%. And sodium lauryl sulfate, a surfactant, was shown to solubilize and denature the viral envelope. These active ingredients also prevents the maturation of the virus, such as a case of monolaurin. In 2001, a group of researchers found that lauric acid prevented the maturation of the Junin virus, the causative agent for the Argentine hemorrhagic fever. Interestingly, the structure of the Junin virus is apparently similar to the SARS-CoV-2, the causative virus for COVID-19. Likewise, lauric acid was also shown to prevent binding of viral properties to the cell membrane of the host. Prevention of binding in the sense that it prevents the entrance of the virus to the systemic circulation of an individual. Now, other components such as the capric acid and monocaprin were found to pose promising antiviral properties against HIV-1 and influenza A virus respectively. Now, focusing sa ating kalaban, our enemy in this fight is the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or the SARS-CoV-2, the causative agent of the COVID-19, which is a positive single-stranded RNA virus. As its name implies, it appears to have crown-like features under the microscope due to its spike glycoproteins. This virus is the 7th and largest coronavirus capable of infecting humans, and it belongs to the same subgenus as SARS and the MERS-CoV. At the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic in the early 2020, the understanding and the therapeutic management of COVID-19 was very limited, thus created the urgency to mitigate this new viral illness with experimental therapies and drug repositioning or repurposing. In our case, with the known antiviral properties of virgin coconut oil, we hypothesize that it is also effective when given to suspect and probable cases of COVID-19. So we further proposed that VCO can be potent in giving better prognosis via normalization of the C-reactive protein levels, the white blood cell profile, the reduction of the blood liver enzymes, and normalization of the lipid profile, and the resolution of the classic COVID-19 symptoms, such as difficulty to breathe, fever, coughing, loss of smell and taste, among others. A randomized double-blind intervention study was conducted in Santa Rosa Community Hospital. So we also have the Santa Rosa Isolation Facility. So we enrolled suspect and probable cases of COVID-19 in accordance with the DOH Administrative Order 2020-0013 promulgated in April 2020. In passing, a suspect case is someone with a severe acute respiratory illness or SARI or influenza-like illness with fever, cough, or sore throat with severe pneumonia or have traveled in an area with reported transmission. As computed based on earlier HIV study by Dr. Fabian Dairit, one of the authors of this study, the study planned to enroll 56 suspect and probable COVID-19 cases. They should be adults 20 years and over, must have been admitted not later than 3 days in that center, with controlled hypertension and with AST or ALT levels not higher than 3-folds of the normal reference range, and those with heart disease taking statins with increased lipid profile and pregnant women were actually excluded. So during the screening, we screened 93 potential participants. 30 were excluded due to various reasons. At the outset, we randomized 63 suspect and probable COVID-19 cases. And the end of the 28-day trial, we were able to analyze the data of only 57 participants because we incurred dropouts or moving out to other places. So the participants were randomized to have either the intervention, which is a meal or meals mixed with VCO, or the control meal, meaning to say without the VCO. This is a 28-day standardized meal, and these were actually standardized in our kitchen lab at FNRI. These meals were meticulously developed in our laboratory. And to acclimatize the gut of the participants in the intervention group, initial dose of 0.6 ml of VCO was added to the breakfast meals of the participants. After the 3-day acclimatization, the dosage was doubled to 1.2 ml of VCO that was mixed to the meals for breakfast and lunch. So for 28 days, all key variables were monitored. Some were monitored daily, and the signs and symptoms were monitored on a daily basis, including plate weights and the dietary intake. On time points, 0, 14, and 28 days, other variables were measured, namely the weight, eventually the BMI, the blood indices such as the fasting blood sugar, the lipid profile, the WBC or the white blood cell count, the C-reactive protein, and the CD4 count. Since we are dealing with suspect and probable cases, the study made periodic RT-PCR tests to check on the participants' infective status. So before we tackle the results, we might be wondering how many from our participants were actually COVID-19 positive. I must remind you again that our participants were suspect and probable cases, so they may or may not be COVID-19 positive. After the baseline, after RT-PCR, more than half of the participants in both groups are COVID-19 positive. However, at midline, 2 from the BCO group and 1 in the control group remained positive. However, at the end of the trial, meaning to say at the end of 28 days, fortunately, all of them turned negative from COVID-19 infection. For the characteristics of our participants at the start of the trial, majority were single and employed, and mostly on their late 20s and early 30s. As we are all aware of the fasting blood sugar is routinely measured to check on our circulating blood glucose on a fasted state. And in the context of COVID-19, we may see an increased level of glucose in the blood, which is associated with severe COVID-19 and being used as an index of inflammation and multiple organ failures. In our study, we found no significant difference in the levels of fasting blood sugar level between the two groups at time points of data collection. Significantly higher FBS levels were evident among the participants from the control group. The measurement of blood lipid profile, total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides in the context of COVID-19 is indicative of disease progression. Now, increased lipid values returns to normal levels as the patient recovers from infection. Now, those who were randomized in the intervention group have consistently elevated the good or the HDL and the bad LDL cholesterol levels throughout the intervention. However, across all time points, no significant difference between groups was evident. And also, liver enzymes, the ALT and the AST, which are markers in response to liver abnormalities, are increased during COVID-19 infection. Our results support the classic COVID-19 manifestation when it comes to the increased ALT and AST. All throughout the intervention, these markers were elevated in both the trial groups, with those randomized for VCO intervention gave out significantly higher values. WBC count is commonly increased among individuals who acquired the COVID-19 infection. In some cases, however, the circulating lymphocytes may also be reduced. Now, apparently, the normal white blood cell index was maintained by the participants all throughout the study. Now, the C-reactive protein, which is an index of acute inflammation, is clinically increased among COVID-19 positive individuals. However, in our study, the drastic reduction to normal levels of C-reactive protein was evident in the intervention group. A greater proportion of the participants, around 83% of them, have returned to normal CRP levels towards the end of the intervention. Clinical presentations of COVID-19 include fever, cough, shortness of breath, loss of smell or taste, among others. However, when talking about the signs and symptoms that were monitored daily, take note of the significant reduction of those who were reported to have COVID-19 symptoms among those who were randomized in the intervention groups. 10 days before the end of the trial, no one in the intervention group or the VCO group reported to have felt any signs or symptoms. So in summary, a predetermined dose of VCO mixed in the meals of probable and COVID-19 individuals can alter the lipid levels by increasing both the LDL-C and HDL-C levels, bad and good cholesterol respectively. However, if we try to calculate the LDL-HDL ratio, we are still in the normal range. A predetermined dose of VCO mix in meals of probable and suspect cases of COVID-19 individuals can promote relief from acute inflammation by normalizing the levels of C-reactive proteins. A predetermined dose also promotes the recovery by resolving the signs and symptoms of COVID-19. However, we have caveats in this study. As a pilot trial, the sample size might be small to be conclusive. And some parameters are considered proxy indicators of the COVID-19 infection. And as the knowledge about COVID-19 expands, there might be some conditions that were not considered at the outset. Functional studies to determine the mechanism of action of VCO is recommended. And we must try to understand that the specific SARS-CoV structure being targeted by the active components of VCO. Now, we also recommend studies with a larger sample size. And we are doing this actually in Valenzuela. Currently, we are doing the study in Valenzuela and in Hospital ng Muntinlupa. So allow me to share these photos depicting the activities in the field, the data collection, as well as the development of the standardized meals is spearheaded by our own Ms. Marietta Bumanglag. So on a personal note, I'd like to quote this from Jacobs. So science doesn't stop when health emergencies start. The Filipino ingenuity is too persistent. It defies protective borders and closed doors. Scientific nationalism by working together. So we started right. Let's continue healing as one. So with this, I'd like to say thank you so much.
Maraming salamat po. Once
Everyone.
more. Yes, hello. Oh, okay. Pasensya na po. That was once more Dr. Imelda Agdepa. Again, may scientific backing po as to how VCO could fight against COVID. Pasensya na rin po at the quality of the video is not as high. Kung meron po tayo mga slides or mga videos na hindi po natin medyo mabasa, we will be uploading and sharing with all of you these videos and slides via our Facebook page and all other public channels, okay? Live po tayo muli via YouTube and Facebook. So kung na-miss nyo po ang previous discussions dito sa CocoKwentuhan, you can check in to our previous days and humabol po eventually. Last but not least, let's go ahead and hear about coconut research as presented by our Deputy Administrator for Research and Development here at PCA. Let's all hear from DA Erlene C. Manuhar.
Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga po sa ating mga viewers, sa mga netizens, and of course, sa ating mga for today. Of course, I'll be presenting for today the Coconut Research Agenda, which is aligned to the new thinking in agriculture. To start with, firstly, let me discuss on how we started in the coconut R&D 46 years ago. Researchers per center are discipline-based, such as breeding, crop protection, agronomy and soils, virology, and biochemistry, including food and non-food product development. And in the early 90s, the focus of R&D was more on the production, and conduct of research is dependent on the allocation share from the total PCA budget. It is budget-based and not on the perceived needs for research and development. Due to limited funding for coconut research and development of PCA, usually the funds are provided by external funding institutions, particularly PICARD, DOST. With such limited resources, the researchers are fragmented and normally no assurance of continuity. In 2019, let me provide you a review of a completed researches of PCA from 1963 to 2018, and after 45 years, these are our researches. And as shown in the graph, research development branch has generated more on production and non-food processing technologies. It was also very glaring that the researches on integrated crop protection was the highest as conducted from 1977 to 2000, because these were the years that PCA was funded by foreign funding agencies like FAO, European Economic Community, Asia, and UNICEF of Germany. Previously, interest of major international funding agencies was focused on coconuts, especially in the Philippines, wherein most of the research and development on coconut started here. Just to highlight the importance of research, it is the foundation for development. It creates innovations, strategies, solutions, and definitely we have to accelerate research to cope up with the pole-vaulting advancement in the science and technology arena in the context of agro-industrialization. What is the vision of research and development for the new thinking? As earlier presented, the new thinking for agribusiness development of the industry, there are 4 major objectives to be satisfied. First, farm productivity. Second, increase the income. Third, supply stability. And fourth is competitiveness. Research is not only the key, but this has to be linked to extension, and farmers have to be mainstream in the system for participatory technology development and should be market-driven as the ultimate focus of the new direction of the coconut for research and development, which is geared towards development of agribusiness corridors. And to come up with a comprehensive R&D programs for a transformation, this conceptual framework for the agribusiness development as presented in these quadrants are considered major elements to achieve the ANI and KITA goal of the new thinking in agriculture. Production and productivity has to be increased with the science-based interventions. We do have these technologies to increase nut yield, like hybridization, fertilization, farm improvements. Product development through modernization of processes for quality improvement and economic viability are the major focus of the coconut research for development. The advanced technologies already developed and to be developed through research and development are the key towards competitiveness globally and locally. How are we going to transform research and development to research for development? From discipline-based research formulation with socioeconomic perspective, knowledge generation should be geared towards technology development for commercialization. Looking at the market prospects and R&D are prioritized based on the needs of the industry. It should not be budget-driven. For so many years, research and development is dependent on the annual budget provided and usually getting bigger share from fund allocation. With a new R&D perspective, a supply value chain approach has to be undertaken in determining priority researchable areas to have a unified research and development agenda. But of course, in any transformation, it requires the following: effective planning and management system aligned to the new direction. Investment and continuity of support is vital since coconut is a perennial crop. Matagalan ang research po dito with multifaceted product uses. The complexity of the supply value chain of this industry The R&D of this commodity requires, of course, competent researchers and full support services. With the provisions of these needs, the new direction of the research for development will be ensured for industry advancement and the vision of the industry for a vibrant and competitive industry can be achieved. Just to highlight the transformation of coconut R&D, benchmark from where we have started, the R&D towards research for development can be achieved through substantive support, research investment, inclusive agenda setting, impact assessment, and that can be done through consultations. And to move forward, progress can be achieved through modernization of research and development facilities, including the research manpower, the need for succession plan of our researchers, because our researchers are not young anymore. Most of them are aging too, like the coconuts. They are now senile. Young generation has to be engaged in coconut R&D for continuity and sustainability of the research for development programs. Research for development strategies has to be geared towards supporting the needs of the industry. The first is the technical support to massive planting of quality planting materials like hybrids or outstanding dwarfs and outstanding tolls. Deployment of responsive research for development in addressing needs and gaps of the industry. We have to incubate research outputs so that we can validate technically and we can determine the economic viability of this research outputs. Modern innovations to accelerate technology development is a must. And lastly, effective technology delivery system to enhance technology utilization. It has to be delivered to the target end users. These are major considerations. As presented here, we have a proposed conceptual framework of participatory technology development and utilization. This can be adapted with the participation of the technology generator and potential users with facilitation coming from the extension workers anchored to the needs and effective transfer of technologies. Right now, these are the current research programs and perceived outcome of research for development. So far, the research and development branch of PCA, with the support of other research institutions, academe, and of course, with the funding support of different institutions, we are centered on production research, product development, modernization, with direct outcome of increased yield or ANI, increased income or kita, and competitiveness. As mentioned earlier, it is imperative that research for development has to be mainstream across the supply value chain of the industry as inputs to production, processing, and marketing. For all of this, the need for convergence of interagency and stakeholders for unified directions. With the support of science-based intervention, we expect to have 3 times higher of the average yield for increased production is expected as far as production and productivity program is concerned. For the increased income of coconut farmers, we would like to achieve at least 50% increase of their income as projected and hopefully 25% improved supply utilization with the copra quality improvement and direct copra marketing program. The integrated processing and product diversification of high-value products with market potential will definitely improve the domestic utilization of the whole nuts with higher value, and we will be improving our competitiveness. As presented here, we have developed these technologies. We have here salt fertilization to increase yield. Included here is also the organic fertilization, under nutrition, and water management system. Still included in the production and productivity program, we have the varietal improvement and breeding projects. We are improving breeding through breeding the population for high-value industrial and nutritional coconut products. We are also evaluating the performance of dwarf and white tall crosses using outstanding varieties with special traits. The RTB also is into performance evaluation of PCA recommended hybrids, considering that we have a big program on hybridization under the Coconut Levy Trust Fund program, and we are now evaluating at different locations under inland and upland and coastal situation with different agro-ecosystems. And of course, we have to protect our gene bank. Our gene bank is one of the biggest gene bank globally, and it is in CRC. Moving on, we have to consider that we have the hybridization program. And we have the model hybrid farms, establishment, performance evaluation in all the regions. We are also mapping the existing outstanding other farms, and of course, the dwarfs, the OPBs in strategic locations. But of course, all of this has to be transferred to the end users. And we have the assisted pollination technique for regional on-farm hybridization through skills training. And we have done that already in Quezon. So as you can see here, PCA has developed 15 single cross hybrids using the outstanding local parental materials for a period of 15 years. There are 5 recommended hybrids based on copra yield per tree, but with the support of DOSTP card to a 3-year project, there are new hybrids identified for BCO and coconut sap sugar production. And also in 2018, PICARD provided funds for the development of the on-farm hybridization scheme with farmers as the user of the technology. This was made possible, and the technical skills was transferred to the farmers of Quezon, as shown in the right side of the slide. The farmer was able to produce the dwarf and tall hybrids. With this technology, on-farm hybridization can be undertaken by our skilled farmers. Our research for development in support of the hybridization program, with the support of the OSTP card, under the Coconut Farmers Industry Development Plan, a roadmap was developed to have a strategic and unified direction on the way forward on the hybridization program backed up by science. The roadmap includes technology transfer and promotion, socioeconomic policy, capacity building, and manpower development. And the key milestones are identified in consultation with academic stakeholders and research institutions that will ensure sustainability of our hybridization program. On food product development, clinical, nutritional, and commercially viable food products are prioritized with the support of clinical studies. We have the cocoa cheese, the ice cream from Makapuno liquid endosperm, and cosmetic products as byproducts of this Makapuno processing. There are a lot more of these products that can be utilized at the farm level, but I cannot present here, but you can have access to all of these technologies in PCA. For the non-food product development, we have COVID response researches like the solar-powered misting disinfection system, coconut ethanol from Lambanog were generated, and utilization of cocoa peat was further enhanced for organic farming. Other products for rural communities that we can offer are the charcoal briquettes, the coir-based pulp board, and tannin extraction from husk that can be used as natural binder. But of course, in research, we have to be modernized for us to be globally competitive. Modernization is the key. Biotechnology applications, such as the tissue culture for coconut, is a breakthrough. We are second to Mexico in terms of this technology, and the application of molecular techniques has to be explored for us to cope up with the past advancement of this upstream level of research. This is how the coconut somatic embryogenesis technology was developed by our researchers in Albay Research Centers, and we are now geared towards clonal propagation, and we are to optimize the requirements of different growth stages. We are testing the coconuts under the test tube technology, like the test tube babies, wherein we can use not only the plumule, but we can also use other parts of the coconuts. Also, under the biotechnology, we have the molecular disease diagnosis using RT-PCR, and we like detection of the hawkweed. We have also in coconuts the use of RT-PCR to determine whether these are kadang-kadang infected trees, and we can already use that in the field condition. But of course, there are requirements for the transformation. These are the must-be in the transformation to effect transformation for industrialization. Streamlining the current structure is a must. Support to all programs, prioritization of high-impact research projects, and the need for sustainable fund allocation. Further, this should be in research for development should be complied. Addressing the gaps and needs through unified and inclusive direction of the research for development. We have to protect our development technologies. Through IPR, we can do that. Development of business-friendly researchers, more focus on rural-based enterprises, and for sustainability of our long-term researches, competency development of researchers, and succession plan has to be part of the R&D agenda. Thank you, and good morning again.
Thank you so much once more, ladies and gentlemen. Our very own DA Erlene talking about coconut research agenda. Hindi na po tayo magbe-break. I believe we're going to be moving along. And up next, we are going to be hearing from our reactor. Our reactor is going to be wrapping up the 3 different presentations brought to us. And magbibigay pa po siya ng sabihin natin comprehensive look at how the supply-demand gap and technologies are affecting the industry. Let's all hear from the Executive Director of DOST, Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development from Picard. Let's all give a warm welcome to Dr. Reynaldo V. Iborra. Good morning po, Doc.
Good morning. Maraming salamat, Leo. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the presenters for the very clear and comprehensive presentation. And also to the keynote speech of the Secretary, which basically set the tone for the discussion and for this particular forum. Based on the different presentation, it is quite obvious that we will be able to improve coconut productivity through R&D. But it has to be very focused, it has to be well-funded, and at the same time, it should not end in R&D alone, but you have to have proper technology transfer, be it through the usual extension system or commercialization of technologies that were developed. What is quite remarkable in the presentation, especially from the report given by Dr. Agdepa, my colleagues from the UST, is regarding the very promising effect of VCO for COVID-19. And what is good is that we are hoping that this particular results will be further studied and later on found to be one of the potential cure for the disease. And in so doing, we are hoping that it's going to increase also the interest of people in VCO and probably also further support the development of the industry. Regarding the hybridization program presented by D.A. Rosales, it was a very clear presentation, and we are hoping that most of the particular targets in the hybridization is well defined, so that the different R&D intervention can be properly put in place. At present, as mentioned by the Secretary, the UST Picard has an ISP on coconut. ISP is Industry Strategic S&T Program. The way we do it in Picard is we determine the commodity, we analyze the needs of the industry, and identify the specific S&T intervention that should be used in order to address particular problem and increase productivity of a certain commodity or certain sector. So most of the projects that were funded by Picard is directed towards that. But as mentioned by D.A. Manohar, the funds are not enough in terms of the needs. Because even if DOS is putting so much resources in coconut research, we know that the problem is quite big and we can only do so much. So it's very important to have convergence of effort, not only coming from DOST, from DA, from other agencies, and also from the private sector. And then there should be an efficient prioritization of research. It is good to do research, but you have to prioritize so that you can have immediate impact and can be felt by the industry. And those are the things that are being considered in prioritizing the different research intervention. One of the data that were presented by D.A. Manohar is that the number of research through time seems to decrease. And this is basically dictated by the amount of resources available. If you compare the amount of resources on R&D that was put by the DOST on coconut, it is quite significant. However, we are hoping that we will be able to get counterpart funds from other agencies so that the other research area can be addressed. And at the same time, we have to focus both on basic and applied research. If you are going to look at some of the breakthrough that we have in coconut, for example, when we address the problem of cocolizap or the coconut scale insects, without basic research leading to its correct identification, we will not be able to solve the problem. So it really emphasizes the importance of basic research in solving the problem. But at the same time, we also have to consider the applied research that will immediately give good output so that it can be felt by the stakeholders. So that in that case, we have to maintain a balance in looking at the different research area where we are going to put our effort and resources. As mentioned, for example, in hybridization, the plan is already put in place, but it will still be subjected to consultation so that we will get a view from other sector and the plan can be further improved. And we are hoping that we are going to get good participation, not only from our colleagues from the government, but also from the private sector. And at the same time, the approach that the DOST is doing is we have the so-called harmonized national R&D agenda. And the main purpose of this is to identify the different agencies that are conducting research in certain commodities, what are the type of research being undertaken, what are the resources available. And by doing so, we should be able to have proper complementation and avoid duplication of efforts. We are happy to say that as of now, the approach seems to be working, not only for coconut, but also for other commodities. However, since the resources is still limited, it's really very important to have convergence of effort. So it will be harmonization and convergence. And I'm very happy now that PCA is actually have a very defined direction in terms of research under the leadership of Administrator Madrigal and also under the Erlin and D.A. Rosales. And I hope that the DOST, DA and other agency can work together and be able to address the main problem of the industry. Based on the three presentation, it is quite obvious that we have to increase the efficiency of production and at the same time, the utilization of the different coconut-based products. One example, the example of which is BCO. And I believe by working together, by identifying the different areas that we have to prioritize, and at the same time, building up our capacity, not only in terms of improving our research laboratories, but also training more people to conduct quality research. One of the things that were mentioned by D.A. Manohar is that most of the coconut researchers are aging, but that's not a unique phenomenon because in other fields they have the same experience. But the government at present, for example, DOST has a good program to address that particular problem by providing scholarship at the graduate level. And I'm very glad that under the Coco Levy Fund, there's a provision to provide scholarship for bachelor's degree for coconut, the sons and daughters of coconut farmers. And I hope those programs can complement and we will be able to produce enough manpower to address the needs of the R&D community for coconut. So I'm hoping that this discussion now, we will be able to identify areas where we can actually have proper complementation and harmonization of efforts, and at the same time be able to get commitment in terms of providing support, not only moral support, but hopefully financial support so that all the necessary work can be done. It is very clear from the statement of the Secretary that DOST, through PICARD, is committed to provide the support, not only from the funds that will be coming from the Coco Levy Fund, but also from the part of our regular budget. It was a commitment that was already made by the DOST long before, and we are going to sustain that particular commitment. So I hope that by working together, we will be able to improve the coconut industry and address the different problems we have now through meaningful and directed R&D. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ibora. At tama po, I think a lot of the insights brought up led to just findings na tayo rin po na hindi naman po bago. It's things that we knew of, especially for the research aspect and the resource that is people. No, but I think a lot of this is also going to be tackled in our Q&A. With that being said, I believe we are about to open up the floor. But first, paalala lang po natin sa ating lahat ang ating mechanics and house rules. What do we have to do to be able to have our question asked? And ano nga ba ang magiging paraan kung paano pwedeng maitanong ang ating questions. first up, there is a Q&A button and meron din pong chat, no? So far, we have had presenters, we have had our keynote speaker, and we have had our reactor. Naipresenta na po nila ang kanilang mga punto, and now it's time for us, the attendees, and those who are curious or Thank you. All right. So, yun po, no? Reminder lang po na meron po tayong Q&A button. So, pwede niyo po ilagay ang inyong email or pangalan kung gusto niyo po, and then we will address it. The moderators and the rapporteurs will be bringing up your question to the floor, or pwede rin po sa chat, no? Nandyan din po. And if you would like, kung mabigyan po tayo ng tsansa na tayo po mismo ang magtanong, please make sure that our background is clear and malinaw po ang ating camera para po engaging ang conversation. All right? So without further ado, I believe it's time for us to introduce our moderator. And it is with great honor that I would like for all of us to welcome the Division Chief of PCA LSD, our moderator for today's Q&A. Let's all give a warm welcome to Miss Maria Celia M. Raquepo.
Thanks, Leo. Gusto natin muling pasalamatan ang mga nag-present at nakatutok sa ating huling araw ng ating 5-day webinar seminar or series na may temang sa Masaganang ani at mataas na kita ni Juan, Siyensya at Teknolohiya ang Kailangan. Muli nagpapasalamat po tayo sa dalawang magiting na Deputy Administrators ng PCA, si Ms. Manohar at si Mr. Rosales, at kay Dr. Imelda Agdepa, ang scientist mula sa DOST FNRI. Marami na pong nakalistang mga katanungan, pero bago natin ipukol ang mga katanungan sa ating mga resource speakers, can we ask our able and hands-on PCA Administrator, General Madrigal Jr., to give some remarks?
Thank you, Ses. Una po sa lahat, kami po ay nagpapasalamat lalo sa pamunuan ng Department of Science and Technology sa pamumuno ni Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, and of course sa aming very hardworking, and very reliable partner sa DOST Picard, Dr. Ray Iborra, for the continued support that you have been providing to the Philippine Coconut Authority. Nakita po natin yung kahalagahan niya ng having a real and concrete direction for PCA's Research for Development Program. Para yung prioritization at magkaroon ng sabi nga ng tamang paglagay ng pondo nitong ating research for future programs. Ngayon po, sabi nga, nakikita po natin yung kahalagahan ng ipinakita sa mga, lalong-lalo na sa presentation ni Dr. Agdepa doon sa FNRI, yung how we should be able to capitalize on the health and environmental benefits of the coconut. And that there should be continued research. Na sabi nga po ni Dr. Dairit, kumbaga sa nasa pa tayo, panimulang stages pa to be able to really prove that the virgin coconut oil is can be a good treatment, hindi lamang po adjunct supplement, but rather a treatment for coconut, kasi yun po itinatya sa COVID, dahil yun po ang tinatanong sa atin, pwede na bang sabihin na siya ay gamot? Pero sa ngayon, ang sabi, ang level natin ay pa lamang, sabi, adjunct food supplement, parang food supplement, kumbaga. At may mga karagdagang pang researches na dapat na gawin. And dito po, siguro sa aking ngayon, may mga ibang let me be the one to ask, ito may mga series of notes akong ginawa, no? Kasi ang topic natin ngayon is addressing supply and demand gap. Kaya nga inano natin dito yung hybridization, no? But when we talk of addressing supply and demand gap, ang isang tema po na kailangan natin ay maiayos natin ang ating coconut statistics. No, kasi dapat maganda ang ating ang ating statistics, collection method, lalong-lalo na sa production, and yung statistics din natin sa merkado para napagtutugma natin. Ayan, sinasabi nga, i-addressing the supply and demand gap, nakukuha natin yung tamang datos ng gaano ba ang ating pinuproduce, saan ba dapat tayo magpuproduce, sa dami ng ating mga produkto, at nasaan ba, ano ba ang hinahanap ng merkado. So ito po, kami sa PCA nagkaroon ng internal discussion. No? We came up with some challenges in Philippine coconut statistics. No? And if I may share, no, our screen. Among the challenges po na nakikita nga natin, yung discrepancies ng statistics natin, no? Alam natin ang pinaka source or official source of coconut statistics is the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, no? And ang isa pong natin dito dito sa huling mga activities na ginagawa namin, we saw that there is really a very wide difference between the statistics, no, being done by ng official na lumalabas at yung mga reports naman natin na nanggagaling sa ating units at saka stakeholders. Siguro ang reason probably is the kind of how the surveys are being conducted or how data is being generated. Tapos siguro po yung problema rin ng iba-ibang ahensya natin na involved in collecting data from PCA, no, from the Philippine Statistics Authority, from the Bureau of Customs, from our Department of Trade and Industry, no, na ma-harmonize itong ating mga data, yung data sources, both sa side po ng consumption at sa side ng ng production. Kasi sabi nga namin, hindi kaya yung na-account lang natin ay yung production na napapunta sa merkado, o kaya yung mga produksyon na hindi pumapasok sa mga mills o nalalaglag sa mga doon sa ating mga bukid ay hindi nabibilang. So we really need science, no, and technology to be able to come up with a very sabi nga real near real time information and statistics on this aspect. Now, kami po ay naggawa din ng parang konting how do we do it? Nakikita po natin, ito yung ginawa naming check na ay yung pong export and import data natin, ito po ang kalimitang basihan ng lalo na sa ang pinaka-reliable na natin ng especially that goes to the global market, ay ito talaga yung medyo mas kumpleto ang ating datos. Ang ating nagiging problema ay yung consumption dito sa loob ng ating bansa, yung domestic utilization. Paano ba natin talaga ma-account ito? And at the same time, sabi nga yung sa production side naman, no, yung kakulangan din ng ibang impormasyon tungkol sa gaano ba talaga ang pinuproduce ng ating mga manufacturers, ng ating industry players, especially sa MSMEs. Yung pong mga micro, small, and medium enterprises. And yung datos natin galing mismo sa bukid, no? Galing sa ating mga magsasaka na mapagtugma natin yung production data at yung consumption data. At nang sa gayon, paano mapag-harmonize ang information ng Philippine Coconut o ang data ng Philippine Coconut Authority, ng Department of Trade and Industry, ng Philippine Statistics Authority. At palagay ko ang sagot po dito, ang makakatulong sa amin dito ay Siyensya at Teknolohiya. No, so ito po ay isa sa aking unang mahingin ng ng reaksyon lalong-lalo na from Dr. Ebora. Maraming po salamat.
Thank you, Administrator Madrigal. So, punta na po tayo sa Q&A portion. Meron po kaming nailista na...
Yes, I think Dr. Ebora will be saying something, no? Doon sa tungkol doon.
Maraming salamat po. Tungkol po doon sa pangangailangan sa pag-aayos ng mga datos, yung data gathering and related statistics, willing po ang PICARD na mag-provide ng support. Yung initial discussion na namin kay DA Manuhar na kung kailangan ng suporta galing sa DOST PICARD, willing po kami na mag-provide ng support para makuha po natin yung mga tamang information. So we are just waiting for the proposal to be submitted to us and we are very willing to provide the support.
Salamat po. Salamat po.
Thank you po, Director Ebora. So meron po tayong mga 10 questions na nakalista. Ang first question ay will be addressed to the DA Ruel. Yung po munang una kay Secretary de la Peña. So ang sabi po ni Criselito Martin Salvador, good morning, Secretary de la Peña. May mga learning modules at mechanization program po ba ang DOST at PhilMec ukol sa paggawa ng activated carbon hango sa coco charcoal at the community level para po sa mga coconut farmer, co-ops at association sa Region 4A. Taga Lopez, Quezon po ako.
Pwede na siguro akong sumagot on behalf of the Secretary. Kasama pa ba natin sa Secretary?
Sige po, Director Ebora, pakisugot.
Bali, yung pong mga projects namin sa PhilMec, hindi ko po gaanong ma-recall kung mayroong specific project doon sa that particular commodity. Pero willing po kami na tingnan at i-consider kung ano yung probable support that we could provide sa parte po ng R&D. Pero yung pong production, kailangan po sigurong tingnan ng PCA yon o ng PhilMec. Dahil ang support po na pwedeng ibigay ng DOST at this time coming from PICARD is for R&D. Pero very willing po kami na bigyan po yun ng suporta. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po, Director Ebora. Yung question pong dalawa will be addressed to DA Rosales. From Jonathan D. and Caselito Martin Salvador, can coconut hybrid still be considered non-GMO? And kasama po ba sa hybridization program ninyo yung Orgulyo Hybrid Tall Variety? Umangkat po kami nito from PCA Zamboanga with technical support from Dr. Rivera. And maaari po ba kaming lumahok sa hybrid seed nut production program ninyo sa farm level? Sir DA.
Magandang umaga po. Para po sa unang katanungan, ang ating pong coconut hybrid ay non-GMO. Hindi po siya genetically modified organism. At bagkus, ang ating pong hybrid is a product of conventional breeding. Kung saan pinipili po natin yung mga desired na mga katangian ng ating parent farm. So pinipili po natin yung mother at father ng ating hybrid para makuha natin yung mga natatanging katangian nito para magamit natin sa either sa processing o sa iba pa nating pangangailangan ng industriya. With that also, dahil maganda yung mga katangian, ay mas mataas ang antas ng productivity nito kaysa doon sa conventional na local varieties or even the dwarf variety. Also, to highlight, wala pong manipulation of the genetic constitution through genetic engineering. So again, hindi po ito genetically modified organism. Doon po naman sa pangalawang katanungan na kung yung orgulyo po ay bahagi ng ating hybridization program, hindi pa po. Kailangan po natin itong irehistro muna sa National Seed Industry Council. So maganda po itong orgulyo. Hybrid po ito na dinevelop po ng ating Zamboanga Research Center na kung saan gumamit sila ng mixture ng 8 na base population ng coconut. Ito po ay ating pagyayamanin ang paggamit nito. Maganda ng simula ang nagawa po ng ating Research and Development branch sa pag-develop nito. At ito nga po ay i-enlist natin para lalo na mapagyaman, mapalawig ang paggamit nito by enlisting it sa National Seed Industry Council. Yun po.
Thank you, DA Rosales. Yung pong ating DA for Research and Development Branch, meron po bang idadagdag si DA Manuhar?
Okay. Thank you, Ces, for that question. Gusto ko lang suportahan yung sinagot ni DA Ruel. Actually, I had a very long discussion with the Picard Executive Director na pwede po naman nating isama yan. Pero of course, kailangan lang po nating magkaroon ng performance evaluation bago mag-distribute. Kasi importante po tayo na magkaroon ng kasiguraduhan, especially doon sa magiging bunga niyan. So, may performance evaluation naman, but ginawa natin po yan sa Zamboanga Research Center. So, willing po ang Picard, according to Dr. Ibora, na narito naman siya, na they're willing to support that multi-location testing of the different hybrids, including that Orgulyo, which is the synthetic variety na developed noon. So with that, ma-assure natin ang ating mga recipient kung meron tayong on-farm or tinatawag nating multi-location testing. Kasi mag-iiba-iba din siyempre ang performance niya at a different environment. So yun yung dapat natin gawin muna prior to massive distribution. Thank you, Ces.
Thank you po, DA Manuhar. May follow-up question po para po kay DA Manuhar from Criselito Martin Salvador. May programa po ba kayo to address the issue of our aging researchers? Marami pong estudyante from Quinas or Quezon National Agricultural School na maaaring tumugon sa panawagan ninyo with the encouragement and financial support. Meron din po silang well-equipped laboratory for food processing and product development?
Okay. Magandang suggestion yan, magandang reaction. As what I have said, and binalidate din naman ni Dr. Ibora, marami sa aming mga researcher, I for one, I'm already leaving, and there are a lot who will also be leaving. So we have to be prepared doon sa magiging sitwasyon. Alam naman natin na research and development for coconut as a perennial crop ay napakahaba ng tinatakbo ng isang research. So pinakamakli na siguro yan 2 years. So yun, maganda na marami tayong mga estudyante at isa nga yan sa nakikita natin, tama yan, dapat siguro ang PCA, and before I leave, I will prepare a program na magkakaroon na tayo ng parang search sa iba't ibang mga universities, and then with the scholarship of Picard, I think we will be able to address that kind of succession plan, and of course with the administrator here, it has to be included in the research agenda na magkaroon tayo ng participation with different universities. As a starting point, maybe what we can do is pwede tayong call for proposals from different universities, thesis. We can support the thesis of these students habang nag-thesis pa sila, ini-enhance na natin yung skills nila at nakaka-engage na po sila sa research and development program. So yun po ang magandang makikita natin, and I hope that Picard will be helping us on that aspect kasi meron silang scholarship program. Plus, itong sa ating trust fund law, nakasama rin po ang scholarship. But as a starting point, we can involve all the universities on this aspect. At ito rin po ang advice ng ating one of the members of the board na lagi tayong makikipag-consult sa different universities.
Thank you, D.A. Manuhar. The next question is addressed to Dr. Imelda Agdepa from Mr. Benigno Pexon. What you presented is excellent in initial work. Will ongoing and future work address the effects of BCO on the Delta and other mutations of COVID-19? Dr. Agdepa.
Yes, good morning to everyone. Unfortunately, the future studies or the study that we are conducting now does not really address the different variants, but it is in a general COVID-19 variant. So we did not segregate our the COVID-19 into its kind of variant. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agdepa. Another question to D.A. Manuhar from Mr. Benigno Pexon. Increasing farmer income through modernization of the coconut industry likely would involve utilization of agricultural production systems other than coconut depending upon local conditions. How far is PCA willing to invest in these other production systems, other crops and livestock, including non-traditional systems such as beekeeping? Such other systems may in fact outperform coconut in revenue generation. What measures are being taken by PCA to coordinate with other DA sectors? How can silos specializing in other agriculture commodities be bridged? So after po ni DA Manuhar, maybe Administrator Madrigal can also add answer.
Actually, Cez, thank you very much. As what I have said in my presentation, there is already a transformation. And one of the major concern is, of course, yung makadevelop tayo ng farmer-friendly and business-friendly technologies that will help increase income of our coconut farmers. Pero of course, yung programa ngayon at yung setup ng PCA, we don't have that program yet on the socio-economic research to address the problem. Actually, tama naman si Dr. Pexon that the focus should be on, of course, naka-ano tayo sa welfare ng ating coconut farmers. But with these technologies that we have now, karamihan po ng technologies, when I took my office here in PCA as Deputy Administrator, malaki pong transformation ang ginawa namin. Karamihan ay yung mga commercially viable technologies at saka po sa level ng ating mga coconut farmers like mga charcoal briquette, mga decorticating. Yan po ay provide natin sa mga rural areas, and ito sa food naman natin, marami na po tayong technologies na pang rural based talaga, because what we aim to do is really provide mga technologies that will augment income ng ating mga coconut farmers. But for the future, I think one of the maybe we will have to propose ay magkaroon talaga ng socio-economic research, technology utilization program, under sa research and development branch. Depende po yun sa ating administrator being so active. Of course, marami po siyang iniisip so na para sa mga welfare ng ating farmers. So the administrator will have a decision on that.
Okay, thank you, Erlene. Now, ano pa lang dito, no? Of course, especially focusing dun sa last part ng question ni Dr. Pexon, no? Yung what measures are being taken by PCA to coordinate with other DA sections. Alam po ninyo, right from the start, mula noong pag-upo ko dito sa Philippine Coconut Authority last year, ito na po yung isang sa advocacy na aking sinasabi during Department of Agriculture Management committee meetings. Na alam po ninyo, napakalawak ng napakalawak ng concerns na hinaano ng ating agriculture, at napakaraming bureaus and attached agencies, kung di ako nagkakamali, 27 bureaus and attached agencies. At ito po yung isa sa ngayon na isa sa mga pinaka-sentro ng programa ni Secretary Tal, yung tinatawag niyang 1DA concept. At ganoon din ang sabi ko nung isang taon, sana yung mga expertise and programs of other agencies ay nakakatulong dito sa atin sa ating sa Philippine Coconut Authority in particular. Halimbawa sabi namin, kung tayo ay kailangan mag-testing ng mga yung different soil characteristics sa iba-ibang lugar, lalo na yung kung ano ba it impacts on ano bang variety ang adaptable. Siguro dapat kasama namin dito ang Bureau of Soils. At dito katulad ng sa pag-develop natin ng standards na ginagawa yung ating yung Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards, yung sa ating training program, ang Agriculture Training Institute na akin na rin na nabanggit doon sa aming during our discussion with the DA na ito ay ginawa na rin ng direktiba na rin ni Secretary dahil nasabi ko napansin natin sa Agriculture Training Institute parang commodity-based when the different concerns are not necessarily commodity-based. Halimbawa na yung climate change that affects all sorts of commodities. Sana mabigyan din ang PCA ng slots especially for this particular training program that are being offered by the Agriculture Training Institute. And ganun din po sa pest management. Actually, we have been coordinating with dahil alam natin kung sa lamang ng yung ating mga pest yung entomologists na asahan sa Philippine Coconut Authority na iilan na tuwing may problema ng infestation sa iba't ibang lugar ay ito ang ating pinapupunta. So ito, nakikipag-coordinate din talaga tayo with the Center for Pest Management na kinreate ng Department of Agriculture para nang sa gayon ay yung mga resident entomologists doon sa iba-ibang rehiyon will also be able to help in addressing itong tuwing may mga problema tayo ng infestation. So we are looking into that. Pati yung sinasabi ni Dr. Pexon na yung other non-traditional practices. Although at the moment, doon po sa ating Republic Act 11524, naka-specify kasi so far yung yung mga initial, kung parang siguro ang pagkakakrap ng batas ay tinitingnan nasaan ba yung pinakamagagandang o high value activities na at yun muna na ang inuna. But eventually, of course, kami rin po sa Philippine Coconut Authority, meron naman tayong yung regular appropriations din. Pwede rin nating kasi nabanggit na po sa atin din yan yung sinasabi. Maliban sa beekeeping, sabi sa pollination, minsan din daw po ginagamit na rin yung yung mga bubuyog instead na manual. Ginagamit na lang sa pollination natin ay yung mismong mga natural pollinators na alam naman natin yan na yung mga bubuyog sa bulaklak kaya maraming ay natural na nangyayari. So of course we will be we are actually at the moment we have created regional DA 1DA committees na that was approved by Secretary Dan nung i-present namin that we will be asking the different bureaus and the support of the regional DA executive directors to support us in the development of the coconut industry. And magbuo kami ng committee mismo together with the regional executive director na parang co-chair focusing on coconut and the coconut farms as well as the concerns of our coconut farmers. Salamat po.
Thank you, Administrator Madrigal. Meron pong nag-raise ng hand, si Michael Angelo Relano. Mr. Relano? So, wala.
Nakamute pa si Mr. Relano. Baka hindi siya makapag-ano. Please unmute.
Ay, wala.
From the host.
Ay, wala na po. Ay, hindi na po nagre-respond. So, meron pong another question is for Dr. Agdepa. Ma'am, how about studies on use of BCO plus calamansi against COVID?
So far po, wala pa po kaming studies na ganyan po. But this is actually a research to be considered in the future. Hindi pa po kami nakagawa ng VCO with calamansi po.
Yes, ma'am. Ang sabi po kasi niya dito, ginagawa daw niya yon, and then it is good for common colds and cough. Thank you, Dr.
Naman siguro po kasi we all know very well that calamansi is very good for good for a source of vitamin C, which actually acts on immune system also. And this is combined with VCO. So sabi naman natin, ang findings natin sa VCO is actually it has an antiviral property. So siguro kung i-combine niya yon ay siguro, tama siguro yung kanyang testimony po. Pero no research or scientific basis can still be presented as of the current time. Thank you po. But this can be considered in the future. Thank you po.
Thank you po. This question can be directed to D.A. Manohar and D.A. Roel Rosales. How can we avail of the technology transfer of R&D to our benefits as association and using such technology in our economic endeavors, such as processing facilities, BCO, vegetable oils, and others, and advancement for coconut farmers' progress? This is from Engineer Rosalito Gomba. D.A. Manohar?
Okay, thank you, Ces. Actually, in my presentation, I presented there the technology transfer system wherein isasama natin po yung possible end user, and then of course with their support to be facilitated ng ating extension worker, and with the participation of the researcher who developed the technology. With that kind of system, we can have po parang yung i-converge natin yung tatlong key players na yon until na magawa nila or ma-implement yung ma-transfer effectively yung technology. And that is what we call incubation, na bago mo i-transfer, meron na trial na tinitingnan ang economic viability at technical feasibility. Of course, most of the researches or technology development ay nangyayari sa ating research center. So what we have to propose really in the new research for development is magkaroon tayo ng tinatawag na research, extension, and end user continuum. That's the way to go. Kaya po nasasabi pag minsan na ang ating mga researches ay nasa publication, na-retain lang sa PCA Research Center is because we really have to adopt a very effective and efficient technology transfer or extension delivery system. Yun po ang key para magkaroon ng higher technology utilization. And we are calling some of these organizations, if they can propose a kind of a system, then PCA research and development team are willing to be your partner in this and undertaking for us to be utilizing the technologies generated. Lahat naman po ng purpose ng technology development is for that to be used, not only for knowledge, not only to be printed sa book, but of course, it has to reach that the end user, and these are the farmers. Kaya yun po ang bagong transformation na instead na research for development, it is now research for development, and that is aligned to the new thinking of agriculture of our very own Secretary William Dar.
Sinasang-ayunan ko ang sinabi ni DA Manuhar. Kailangan ang pag-analisa ngayon, ang pagtingin sa industriya ay ang through the entire value chain system. At ito pa nga ang magandang nangyayari, ang PCA mismo ay nag-a-undergo ng transformation process kung saan ay mas malawak ang ugnayan natin sa ating mga stakeholders through constant forum and dialogue. That way, we will be able to craft practical and applicable research work towards operationalization, towards productivity, towards the necessary product lines, addressing the concern of the market. So napakaganda po ang nangyayari ngayon. Ang mga result po ng research study natin ay nakikita na at naisasang-ayon sa talagang pangangailangan ng industriya.
Thank you po. We will be having two questions from our audience, from Ruben Villarreal. Ruben, Sir Ruben.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Opo. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now? Okay, my questions are for all the speakers, or maybe to the appropriate coconut official. You mentioned about the problem of growing old scientists. So my question is, how many old scientists are retiring very soon? And the second question is, how many young scientists are now enrolled either for their MS or for their PhD program? Because we really have to address this. I think it is common all over the Philippines that we attract less and less young scientists to go into research, especially in agriculture. So yun ang tanong ko sa mga kinauukulan. Arlene?
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Dr. Villarreal. Okay. First, I'll be the first one. I'll be retiring this September. Second, the average age of our researchers is between 57 to 60 years old. 5 years from now, if they will be just like me na abutin yung 42 years na nagtiyaga at nagpunyagi sa research ng PCA. So maybe 20% will be retiring in 5 years from now. Kasi po marami ng 60 years old. So mandatory, we really have to leave. Regarding the scientists who are enrolled on advanced studies, right now we have 2 na nasa abroad po for advanced studies. And then we hope that we will have the young generation na maging scholars ng PICARD. But right now, we cannot send them to studies kasi po pag pinalabas pa namin ang karamihan at nagsabay-sabay, wala na pong maiiwan na magre-research dito. So, hindi po kami makapagpadala ng marami because ginagawa natin padalwa-dalwa, isa kasi po marami na pong kakaunti na po ang mga researchers sa coconut dito sa Philippine Coconut Authority.
If I may add, sir.
Sige, dagdagan mo.
Yes, sir. If I may add, Dr. Villarreal. Alam po ninyo, sir, ito yung isa sa nakita ko dito nung pagdating natin dito sa Philippine Coconut Authority. No, una po yung considering nakita natin yung kakulangan ng succession planning sa mga tauhan dahil sabi nung tinitingnan natin ilan ba ang ating plant breeders Tapos sabi nga natin, dapat yung plant breeders natin corresponds to the number of our seed farms. Dahil dapat yung seed farm natin ay supervised by plant breeders. Ilan ba ang ating entomologists? No, para yung tuwing mayroong pest infestation, hindi tayo nagmumove ng mga tao, no, na may halimbawa mga regional director na nasa isang lugar, papupuntahin natin sa ibang lugar, if only to address ang natin, o kaya kung halimbawa may mga pangailangan pang ibang mga mga problem specific na mga kaya and considering po yung strength ng PCA at the moment, at ang sabi nga ang PCA sa ngayon, hindi po katulad ng PCA siguro 20-30 years ago, na malawak, malaki ang natin, at ang ating organisasyon po ngayon ay maliit. And what we do now is, sa kakulangan nga ng succession planning, is maximize on partnership. Kung kaya nga po dito, in the case of, even sa University of the Philippines at Los Baños, when we were discussing with UPLB and of course with PICARD, sabi nga natin, ilan na ba yung naiiwan para sa coconut researches? Sabi nga, even in dito po na mukhang kailangan dagdagan, and this can be done by yung real engagement with other state universities also. In fact, Bisaya, sabi nga, iisa yung nakikita natin na mayroon ding expertise sa coconut, yan nandiyan sa BSU. Tapos yung sa Mindanao, ganun din. So, ito sir, we are gathering itong nakikita natin na iba pang mga mga expertise na kailangan ng ating industriya, engaging with the different state colleges and academy, plus engaging with other institutions upang mapag-interface, mapagtugma-tugma at magkatulungan sa pangangailangan. Katulad na lang po ng development plan na ito na we really had to get with the support of our experts from the academy. So, naman po, kasama po sa ating transformation roadmap, itong ating programa for, sabi nga, succession planning and capacity building of our institution. Salamat po.
Okay, may dagdag na tanong. Sa inyong karanasan sa PCA, background muna. Dito sa Institute of Plant Breeding sa Los Baños, napakarami naming mga retired plant breeders who are still reporting sa Institute of Plant Breeding without compensation. In other words, gratis et amore, naglilingkod kami, pero pinakakapi naman kami pamisan-misan. At kapag may program, kasama kami. Pero meron kaming appointment sa university. So ang tanong ko, meron bang ganyang uri ng privilege ang binibigay ninyo sa mga oil retiring scientists na pwede silang mabigyan na appointment with or without compensation para lang sa ganon, yung mga batang scientists ay kahit paano may mapupulot pa doon sa mga napakayamang karanasan ng mga scientists na nag-retire na. Do you have something like that as a culture in PCA?
Sir, maganda pong suggestion niyo, lalong-lalo na po kung but gratis et amore. Ngayon naman, actually, yung nga po, since last year, kami po ay actively engaging, particularly with Dr. Javier, who has opened up, to the help of the IPB director din. Nandiyan na kami nagmi-meeting kalimitan. Kung kaya po tayo nakapagbukas umpisa ng coconut natin, hybridization, yung mga varieties na itinanim din natin dyan sa IPB. But aside from that, sabi ko nga, katulad po sa amin sa ngayon, si Dr. Johnny Sanggalang, no, ay na dati rin galing diyan sa atin sa UP Los Baños.
Brand president din yan.
Ay katulong naman po namin. Nandun po siya sa North Cotabato ngayon, no? Kasama namin dito sa Philippine Coconut Authority. But of course, will be yung aming engagement with camp continues to to prosper. In fact, together with tomorrow mayroon kaming meeting sa kanila.
Magkasalita nga bukas eh.
If only to get, of course, to gather yung mga bright, the wisdom of our, yung ating mga, sabi nga, mga magagaling na mga, predecessors dito po sa industriya.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. See you tomorrow.
Salamat po.
Marami pong salamat Dr. Villaruel at kay Admin
Villarreal
and kay Admin Madrigal and DA Manuhar. So we will be having only 2 questions from our audience. Since meron po tayong mangyayaring closing program mamaya, so ilimit na po natin o i-close na po natin yung ating Q&A portion. And we would like to take this opportunity for those who commented positively. Marami pong salamat sa mga comments ninyo. And then yung pong mga questions na hindi po namin nasagot, we will try to answer them through your emails. Ay, naku, dumami na po ang ating question uli sa ating mga audience. 4 na po sila. So, i-continuous na po natin yung question. First, we will hear from Miss Micheline Garcia, and then kay Dr. Emil Javier, and then kay Mr. Cuino, and then kay Miss Agnes. Thank you po. Miss Micheline Garcia. Hello. Okay po.
Hello. Sa Region 12 to, si Johnny Sanggalang.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, nag-chat ako kanina and then may tanong kasi ako kasi I heard before na sa PCA daw may mga nag-study leave na researchers but then they are only allowed paid leave for about 6 months. After 6 months, parang on their own na, no? I think this is very, parang disincentive ito doon sa mga researchers natin, especially yung nag-i-study leave, no? I was wondering kung pwedeng baguhin itong policy na to.
Thank you, sir. No? Ito, sir, ang problema, actually, this has been brought to my attention before, but ang problema po natin yung ating COA regulations. No, yun po ang ating basihan lang po ng ng authority na kaya nating ibigay ay base lang din sa yung inaalaw ng ating regulations. May mga binabanggit nga but sa ibang ahensya mayroong silang ibang arrangement. I don't know how they are doing that, no, pero dito po sa atin ay unless probably it will have to go up for yung sabi nga mga itataas natin ang level ng approval papunta sa sa mga nakatataas natin, but otherwise probably what we can do is to put this to the attention of our yung ating lang na sa audit and of course sa mga decision makers to be able to change these policies that sabi nga medyo na co-constrain ang ating authority to pursue our effort to pursue further studies.
Kasi malaking problema kasi yan gawa ng yung mga pinapaaral natin na mag PhD or masters. Malaki ang chance na hindi na sila bumalik after matapos sila kung hindi regular yung pay nila as scholars ba. So malaking negative impact yan sa ating research system.
Yes, sir. Opo, sige po. At yun nga po, at andito naman si D.A. Wally. I don't know kung hawak mo, Wally, yung polisiya na pinagbabasihan natin ito.
Sorry sir, hindi ko dala yung wala sa akin yung papel sir. But we will definitely look into that yung sa CSC for yung support natin to our researchers. And we also are coming up with a policy to provide some augmentation to our personnel, specifically those who are taking masteral courses para makatulong tayo sa kanilang further studies, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay pa.
Thank you po si Dr. Javier.
Magandang tanghali sa ating lahat. Okay ba ako? Narinig nyo?
Yes, sir. Narinig po.
Magandang umaga, admin.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, late ako nakapasok kasi meron pa akong ibang meeting kanina umaga. Admin and Erlene, hindi ba in our last meetings with the previous chancellors, nag-agree tayo that we will have a PCA UPLB research unit based in UPLB. Yun ang ating basis for succession planning to involve the other universities. So, ang UPLB with the old chancellor and the new one, they have constituted a coconut research team already. The idea is to have as many as 4 or 5 PhDs who will constitute a team at UPLB to conduct research and graduate training for coconut. Now, the idea is this group in UPLB, jointly with the PCA under Erlene, Deputy for R&D, will put together projects that can be funded by, mabuti nandito si Dr. Ebora and maybe DA Bar. Ang idea is, yung mga research projects na yan will align with the priorities set by PCA in different fields. And this will be the opportunity to hire research assistants who will become masteral and doctoral students of this faculty. Now, eventually, meron silang assurance that if you successfully pass your graduate courses and get a degree, you are automatically lined up for regular positions in PCA. In fact, admin, nagkaintindihan na tayo. We have got the permission of the the IPB director. There is a room there na be the office of the PCA UPLB research team. The idea is later on you will assign a resident PCA researcher to put together to this different research on coconut jointly between the university and PCA with funding from Picard and DA Bar. Na-reserve na yung area na yan, pero medyo naantala kasi nagkaroon tayo ng bagong chancellor. But I know the new chancellor is very open. So, yun ang sagot doon sa succession planning. At the same time, if we have such research teams in UPLB, in VISCA, in USM, at least 3 areas or southeastern Philippines, automatically we can pin down 3 to 5 senior scientists, PhDs to work on coconut. And then yun naman na magiging advisor ng mga young people who will be recruiting to become research assistants and masteral and doctoral students. Of course, the attraction is if you successfully pass your master's and doctoral degree, you're automatically lined up for appointments in the PCA. And with your degrees and so on, then you are very, very qualified. So yun ang ating, I don't know, admin, kasi mahabang usapan natin, baka baka hindi nyo nabanggit. I think we should add that kasi yung UPLB committee in coconut, they're really working now and putting together a research plan. So kung matuloy yan, nandiyan naman si Dr. Ebora, And then we'll get scholarships from DOST. So yun ang magiging successor ng PCA. And of course, yun ang may screening tayo na kailangan pumasa sila with good marks in their masteral and doctoral program to be eligible for the for the regular positions in PCA in the future. So
Yes,
yun
sir.
ang mahabang sagot na napag-usapan na natin yan, admin. We had agreement with the old chancellor, but we have to renew it with the new chancellor.
Yes, sir. Tama po kayo. At kasama nga natin doon, ang sabi nga natin, tripartite ito, no? Kasama si Dr. Evora, yung DOST Picard kung paano i-dovetail din yung scholarship program ng Picard dito sa napagkasundaan with UPLB and PCA. Another proposal po is actually in the case of Visayas State University and early, no, that they are offering their university to be the extension office ng aming research and development branch, no? Sabi nila para hindi na kayo magtatayo ng opisina rin dito, we can be your extension office, and you can actually utilize also our staff for the research program that you want to undertake in the Visayas region. And we are establishing also, ito nga po yung partnership din with doon naman sa area ni Doc Johnny sa Jensan. No, yung na meron din mga coconut experts natin doon. Salamat po sir for the augmentation sa sagot para doon sa tanong ni Dr. Villarreal.
Thank you.
Si Dr. Evora, gusto sabihin.
Thank you, Admin. Gaya ng nabanggit ni Dr. Javier, may commitment din ang Picard to develop yung program na yon, similar to the GREAT program that we have now. Ibig sabihin yung researcher will be working on a R&D project funded by Picard. So, ang objective nito, ma-maximize yung scholarship. Yung scholarship po kasi hindi actually galing sa Picard directly. It will be coming from SEI, the Science Education Institute. But we package a program in such a way that the scholarship is dovetailed to an R&D project funded by Picard. So yun ang mga R&D project ng PCA na funded ng Picard through our GAA. Siguro ngayon mas madadagdagan kasi yung hybridization program, pwedeng gumawa din tayo ng ganong programa. The students will be working on that project as part of their thesis and dissertation. So maximize yung input kasi properly supported yung student. And hopefully after their graduation, as stated by Dr. Javier, they will be accommodated by PCA and be given regular position. So yung commitment po ng DOST Picard sa program na yon ay gusto lang naming i-affirm na kung sakaling mayroong appropriate program from PCA, we will provide the appropriate support. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director Evora. So that was a good news for our young researchers. May dalawa na lang po tayong question from our audience. The next one is from Mr. Koino and then Ms. Agnes Cristobal of the VCOP. Mr. Koino?
Hello, can you hear me?
Apo.
Okay. Gusto ko sanang i-support yung suggestion or reiteration ni Emil Javier, no? At saka earlier si Ben Villarreal, no? Kami sa camp ay talagang still fresh in our memory about previous discussions we had to strengthen the capability of PhilRise for research and development. Now, yung research naman on coconut is really not just the exclusive domain of one agency, namely PCA, you know. The total national strategy should involve a comprehensive institutional arrangement para ma-maximize yung commitment and strength ng ibang institutions, no? Now, yung sinabi ni Dr. Javier, pwedeng ikabit yun yung tinatawag na fellowship program, no? Yung mga fellowship program, ito yung mga retired retired people or yung mayroon ng doctoral na bibigyan ng commission sila to do specific research on topics needed by PCA at well funded, no? So that's one. Another one is yung binanggit ni Dr. Sanggalang kanina, totoo yun, no? In the case of issues is, kung nagpapadala sila ng scholars, kumukuha sila ng stipend doon sa scholarship, at the same time, nire-retain nila yung kanilang salaries, no? This is covered by MOA doon sa appointment. Kaya hindi natin masabi sa kuha na unusual ito. This is already going on, kaya pwede natin ma-support ito. Another one, in our recruitment, Erlen, we should really involve already aggressive recruitment, not only for those for masters and PhD, but pwede natin i-monitor kung sino yung mga bright, young, good leaders from the issues at doon pa ay pwede na natin i-grab sila at bibigyan ng offer, no? Sa UPLB, if you are hired and ang entry mo ay mayroon kang honors, mayroon kang premium. You have a premium in your entry salary. I think the same thing can be done by PCA. The other idea is yung horizontal hiring. Yung horizontal hiring, ay hindi tayo pwede maghintay. May mga tao na some of them are already finishing abroad or employed by other agencies na kung hikayat natin silang mag-join sa PCA, ay malaking bagay yun because ang head start nila ay mabilis, no? Another one, yung funding. While it is good that Generous at Picard at DOST at ibang agencies to support scholarships at saka research, I think in the case of PCA, hindi natin masasabi na kulang na tayo ng pundo to do that. I think we should be self-reliant by investing, by putting aside, earmarking money, either from your budget or from the coconut levy fund. Talagang we have to set aside our own investment para madadagdagan, kumbayan doon sa generosity ng other agencies sa Picard. Ang research kasi hindi mura. To get a good researchers, to fund good research, hindi mura yon. Talagang we have to tighten our belts and bite the bullet and really put heavy investment into R&D.
Thank you po kay Miss Agnes. Last na po kay Miss Agnes.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Sige pa.
Yeah, okay. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Philippine Coconut Authority. Maraming salamat, Administrator Madrigal, for this Coconut Week. I would also like to thank DOST, Secretary de la Peña, and Dr. Agdepa for the studies of VCO versus COVID. No? But in addition to that, I would like to ask if there are plans to expand this clinical trial for VCO versus COVID, considering the rise in cases that we have. I think many people, despite the initial study last year, are still skeptical. Ang sinasabi, hindi naman marami yung tineste. So, can this be replicated regional or nation, certain hotspots like Iloilo, Cebu, yung mga gano'n, Cagayan de Oro, so that we can get a better view of the efficacy as adjunct therapy and to convince more of our countrymen. 100+ million tayo, 110 million ilan ang nagiging cases natin every day. So showing them what VCO can do will help a lot in alleviating the suffering, especially those nung mild and asymptomatic kasi takot silang ma-isolate. So yun lang po. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much for this week, sir. Good morning.
Thank you, Miss Agnes. Pwede po sumagot si Dr. Agdepa. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am Agnes, thank you so much for that comment. Yes, we have already expanded the study, meaning to say we have replicated this study in Valenzuela and in hospital ng Muntinlupa. And we are currently recruiting patients. However, since this is research, we can just enroll few patients because of the stricter criteria in order for us to really get the effect of the VCO for COVID patients. So in this study, we only have to recruit 120 patients in both sites. So fortunately, we already have around 64, so we are still aiming to recruit more to come up with 120 patients. With this, we have replicated already our study in Santa Rosa, and another study will be coming out for severe cases and versus VCO intake that is done by PGH. So with the current study that we're conducting now, we are targeting the moderate and mild cases, COVID positive patients with the RT-PCR test. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Agdepa.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So this ends our Q&A portion. We would like to thank all those who participated, those who commented in our chat box, and we also would like to thank yung pong reactor natin, si Dr. Ebora, and ang panelists natin. And then, binabalik na ko na po yung time kay Leo.
Maraming salamat po. Again, our moderator, Ms. Maria Celia Raquepo. In order po, para talaga mapasalamatan ang ating mga esteemed guest at mga nag-share po ng kanilang insights, we would like to ask for the assistance of DA Walter for the awarding po. So with that being said, Sir Walter.
Thank you, Leo. Let me just read the citation for appreciation of our participants. Philippine Coconut Authority presents the plaque of appreciation to Honorable Fortunato T. De La Peña, Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, in grateful acknowledgement and sincere appreciation for the valuable service rendered as keynote speaker in the Coco Negosyo webinar sa CocoKwentuhan, negosyo ang pag-usapan, suporta ng industriya at gobyerno sa maniniyog ay asahan. As part of the 35th National Coco Week celebration, given this 27th day of August 2021 at PCA Diliman, Quezon City, signed Benjamin R. Madrigal, Administrator. Likewise, we would also like to present the plaques of appreciation to the Addressing Supply and Demand Gap speakers, Mr. Roel M. Rosales, PCA Deputy Administrator for Operations, Dr. Imelda Agdepa, Director Scientist 4 of DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute, and Ms. Erlene C. Manohar, PCA Deputy Administrator for Research and Development. Lastly, the plaque of appreciation is also presented to our reactor for today, Dr. Ray Ebora, Executive Director of DOST Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development. Again, thank you to all our distinguished speakers, guests, and participants for participating in today's endeavor. Back to you, Leo.
Maraming salamat po once more, DA Walter Partosa, our awarding of our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be taking a very, very quick break. No? 2 minutes lang po. We're going to be taking a quick break. At sa pagbabalik ng CocoKwentuhan, tayo po ay papasok sa ating closing program where we will have a synthesis and we will hear a few words from our guest of honor. And then we will close up the celebration for CocoKwentuhan. And again, I greet everyone a happy National Coconut Week. Magbabalik po ang CocoKwentuhan. Nagbabalik po ang CocoKwentuhan. It's time for us to go into our closing program. And up next for that, I would like to call on a special guest for today's series. They are a professor at the College of Agriculture and Food Science at UPLB, farming systems specialist, project leader of the Coconut Farmers and Industry Roadmap, also known as CocoFirm, and one of the technical writers of the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan, CFIDP. Let's all welcome to wrap up and synthesize our webinar series so far. Let's hear from Dr. Edna A. Aguilar.
Magandang araw po sa ating lahat at bumabati po ako sa Philippine Coconut Authority sa pagbuo po, pagbalangkas po nitong week-long webinar na ito po. Despite the pandemic, no, I think the online platform gave us a better reach ng ating audience given the participation that we see na binigay po sa aking datos. Ano? So as our week-long webinar comes to a close, I am sure that most of us here we live inspired and optimistic that the change in the coconut industry is indeed coming. No? That from a sleeping giant, the industry will be reinvigorated to be truly the tree of life for coconut farmers and for all the stakeholders and players in the industry. So ito po ang ating vision, sana po from Coco Firm. At ito po sana ay maisakatuparan ang part of it, no? Ma-jumpstart po, sabi nga ng ating mga keynote speakers, to jumpstart the transformation of the industry towards one that is inclusive, sustainable, resilient, globally competitive with empowered and prosperous farmers. So highlighted po dito sa ating isang linggong pagtatalakayan ay mga success stories. Ano po, following different formula, different business models, different configurations on how we can agribusinessize the industry, how we can uplift the coconut farmers from mere producers and suppliers to agripreneurs. No? So day one po, nakita natin cooperative-led, LGU-led on the second day, private sector farmers participation, organization-led coconut enterprises, addressing the supply gap, and of course po ito yung research, day 5 po ito, ang atin pong research and development. Sabi natin hindi na po because it is now research for development. So ano po ang mga nakita po natin on day 1? Okay, so ito po ang mga ano lang po ang ating i-highlight dahil napakagagaling naman po ng ating mga participants at ating keynote speakers, no? Mga key elements lang po ang ating babanggitin. The key element of success sa cooperatives is consolidation. No po? The cooperatives can bridge really the disconnect between farmers and companies that has long been plaguing the industry. So ang keywords po sa mga i-share ng ating mga presenters, unity, cooperation, devotion. So yung pong business is always nakasama po sa family welfare, and that the family that works together, you know, shares the benefits together ay mas maganda po. So coordination and financial assistance is important to, you know, para po maumpisahan, ano, and value adding on coconut based food, non-food ay mahalaga po. At syempre po, doon po sa diversification through intercropping, livestock integration, and aquaculture. So direct benefits po, pagka po tayo ay kasama sa cooperative would benefit the farmers not only through their earnings but also through the other services of the cooperative, such as scholarships, microcredit, no, technical support, and overall improvement in the well-being of the farmers at kung paano po tayo magsasama-sama. So ayan po. So next po, dito po naman sa Coco Negosyo, no? Ang nakita po natin dito, ang LGU po, ang sabi nga po ni Tabsec Nograles, no? The local government would be spearheading the economic development of the community, but they are also key, no, to harnessing support from other sectors. At ito po ang pinakita nitong ating pong mga presenters, no, sa Claver, sa Javier, sa Alabat, sa Malingao, that it is through the efforts and leadership of the LGU that ang mga farmers po ay natuto, no, natuto on processing, na there is more to the coconuts rather than just copra or the whole nuts, no po, and that bringing the different sectors, the different government agencies and private institutions to support the enterprises that they have initiated is key to really upscaling, no, and leveling up the production of these community-based farming systems or enterprises, coconut-based enterprises. So linking the community-based organizations to potential market and investors, na ipakita po nila yan, lalo na po with the organic certification, for example, doon sa ating mga cocoa sugar. Processing of raw materials creates exponential changes in livelihood and income, at ito po ay isang inspirasyon, no po, na makita po natin ang mga testaments ng ating mga nabenepisyuhang mga coconut farmers and their families. So promotion of zero waste management through utilization of coconut waste. Tama po ito because we also advocate this. Coconut waste is the most abundant waste, no, farm biomass that is available every month that the farmer harvests the coconut, palagi pong may coconut husk, and we have to put it into good use. In our study po, 3% lang po, less than 3% ang nagagamit natin, and look at all those nutrients that has been taken up by the coconut husk that we should put back into good use. So ayan po. Capacitating farmers is always the key, no? Through farm business schools and different skills training. Ito po ay hindi nagtatapos sa unang pag-ano. It has to be the learning has to be continuous and lifelong. So ayan po, naipakita po na very open po ang ating mga farmers to learning new things, no? At kailangan lang po nila ng ating suporta. So establishment of LGU-led agro-enterprise to involve farmers in the production. So ito po, ma-elevate po natin. Ito po yung sinasabi natin na we are not only suppliers, but they are also, we level up their participation in higher levels of the value chain, production, processing, and marketing. So sa susunod naman po, at ito po ang isang importante dito, yung pong participation ng ating women. So farm family enterprise. Ayan po. So dito po sa pangatlo, may new paradigm shift, sabi natin, new paradigm from transactional CSR ng ating pong mga private companies to new paradigms that goes beyond the traditional, and that the CSR would really promote, no, that the farmers, both the farmers and the companies would benefit from mutually, no, and complementarity. Is the key. So private sectors and farmers are not just buyers and sellers anymore, but they are business partners. So this is beyond business as usual. No, partnership is the key in tracking targets of the industry. So ayan po. Ano pa bang mga natin? Partnership with farmers organization. As direct supplier of raw materials, dito po ito nag-uumpisa, na po. Provision of incentives to farmers who follow good agricultural practices, promotion of value addition to increase the value of coconuts, assistance in health insurance, emergency funds, meron pong mga scholarship grants to coconut farmers and their families, education on financial management, increasing environmental awareness through seminars and trainings. This is in response po dun sa increasing demands of our market for sustainable practices of our coconut farms. So tinitingnan lang po nila hindi lang ang kalidad ng ating sinusupply, but also how are our products produced. No? Isa pong na-highlight dito, yung pong to create local demand with immediate benefits to coconut farmers and all the other stakeholders in the coconut, particularly on the copra, CNO, RBD, oleochemicals value chain. Po, ito pong B2 to B5, increasing the B2 to B5 blend ng ating cocoa diesel. So ayan po. Sana po ay masuportahan at matuloy na po iyan. Po. So, okay. Ang sabi nga pa, gusto ko pong i-highlight pati yung sinabi ni Admin Madrigal, no? For the private agencies, companies to partner with the coconut farmers, and then the PCA will support you so that both the farmers and the private companies would benefit. So ayan po, talagang very critical po ang role ng PCA and the other government agencies to push through this private sector farmer partnership. So again, next po. So on the day 4, ano po? So again, organization is the key, no? Partnership among the cooperatives, and it is through the development of the cooperatives that the farmers will have a voice and would take them into higher level of the value chain. So the formation and participation in organizations would yield the farmers not just the monetary benefits, but also the trust, the knowledge, sharing among the coconut farmers. So in group, they will have the strength. No? Linking farmers directly to the market to ensure stable income is only possible with the farmers being members of farmers cooperatives and organizations. So we can only develop quality products that are PNS compliant, GAP, organic certified, GMP certified, only if we we follow the common standard of production management, processing, harvesting, and all that, so that we could support the quality and the volume that the market needs. Promoting good welfare of farmers and their families is again key to the sustainability of the industry, because they are the backbone of the industry, and they are the ones who provide us with the feedstocks that are and raw materials that are needed in all the value chains of the coconut industry. So ayan po. So again, LGU is important here, no? And trust, no? Isa po na napag-usapan, and ito po yung nandun sa mga questions and answers, is where is it possible and when are we going to be transforming our copra, traditional copra processing into a white copra? So papaano po natin iyon, how can we realize that dream, no? So again, today po has been very fruitful. Me also being part of the academe, ako po I've spent most of my years with coconut research. Kung magre-retire na po ang aking mga kasamahan, si Erlyn, I will be retiring in another 3 years. At tama po yun, nandito po ang aking mahal na advisor. Allow me, indulge me. Sir Villarreal, thank you. Sir, I love you. Yan. Addressing the gaps and needs of the coconut industry through unified and inclusive direction. Ayan po. Increasing the average annual income. Ito po, we narrow the gap between the yield, the actual yield and the potential yield of our coconut varieties. At dito po talaga science for development. In-emphasize po ng ating Director Ebora that both basic, applied, and developmental research are important. Particularly that there are many unpredicted stresses that comes our way. And he cited an example on the CSI, which is an exotic pest, that without previous knowledge, we have to harness and quickly respond to the need to engage our researchers to immediately develop the technology and study what causes it, and hope, and it's a good model to follow on the interface of research and operations. No, that whatever was known early on is already translates to operations and research, so that we address the problem immediately. So napakaganda po ng presentation on the VCO. As a liquid gold with medicinal and therapeutic properties, napakadami pong tanong, napakaganda po ng potential, and this is one product that we should be taking care of, no, na maalagaan natin, and for us to penetrate the green market that is ever increasing, no. So research as a foundation of the sustainable growth of the industry, we cannot overemphasize that po, no, and yung pong succession of we are really at a crossroad, and it is good that at this time when the Coco Levy Trust Fund has been will be released, ito po ay makakatulong so that we narrow that gap sa ating pong technical at siyempre po in the researchers that we are nurturing for the future. So, ayan po. And with that, so again po, ang ating it's all about paradigm shift, no? In CSR, in the way that we partner with the private sector, in the way that the LGU would function, in the way that our farmers should participate in the higher level of the value chain. It is to cooperative, partnership, convergence, no po, yun po ang ating mga keywords, and agribusinessizing the coconut industry. So ito po, napakaganda. Thank you kay Mr. Lau. I got it from his presentation. The coconut farmers, government, private sector partnership should be strengthened so that we could attain our vision for the coconut industry and for the coconut farmers to finally, be prosperous and empowered. So thank you very much po, and salute to PCA for a very good week.
Thank you so much. Maraming salamat po. Wrapping up into a nice package, summarizing each day of CocoKwentuhan and giving your own take as to where we should be going, ano po yung direksyon ng ating industriya. Maraming salamat po, Dr. Aguilar, once more synthesizing our webinar series, CocoKwentuhan 2021. Up next, to introduce our guest of honor, let's hear once more from our beloved PCA administrator, former highest official of the AFP, now tasked to lead the National Agency for Coconut and Palm Oil Development. Once more, admin of PCA, General Benjamin Madrigal Jr.
Thank you, Leo. To our guest of honor and speaker, whom I'll have the honor of introducing later, my fellow workers in the Department of Agriculture and the Philippine Coconut Authority, our distinguished discussants in this week-long webinar, and to our participants and netizens viewing via Zoom and via Facebook Live, who have all stayed with us for the past 5 days. Isa pong masagana at mapagpalang tanghali sa ating lahat. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our guest of honor and speaker for the closing program of this CocoKwentuhan sa Negosyo. The son of a former congressman and Quezon Governor, Wilfredo Lopez Enverga, and Mrs. Grace McCormick Enverga of Mauban, Quezon. He was a young hotelier and a school administrator when he entered politics in 2007. At the age of 29, he got elected as one of the youngest representatives in the 14th Congress, representing the 1st Congressional District of Quezon. He obtained his diploma in Hotel and Restaurant Administration in 1999 from the Swiss Hotel Management School in Les Roches, Switzerland. He then took his Bachelor of Applied Science in Hospitality Administration in 2001, graduating as a President's List awardee, and earned his Master in Business Administration in 2003, both from the Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. During his first 3 consecutive terms in Congress, 14, 15, and 16 Congress, his advocacies included education, health, rural and agricultural development, as well as local governance. He was again elected in the 18th Congress with increased passion, helping more people, especially in the rural areas. Hence, he was elected as the chairperson of the House Committee on Agriculture and Food. And of course, we owe him a lot, for he was one of the prime mover, or he was our prime mover in Congress for the enactment of the Republic Act 11524, or the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act. His guiding principle is to work for the legacy of excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pride and honor to introduce to you our guest of honor and speaker for the closing of this webinar series, Congressman Wilfredo, Mark, McCormick, and Verga.
Thank you very much, Admin Benji, for that very kind introduction. Thank you very much po. Of course, before I proceed, I would like to acknowledge, of course, the entire PCA family. Of course, headed by a very good friend and a true leader of the Philippine Coconut Authority, Administrator Benjamin Madrigal. To our distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon na po sa ating lahat. Una po ay lubos po ang aking pong pasasalamat sa ating pong lahat na ako po ay naging bahagi at na maimbitahan. At hindi lamang po maimbitahan kundi po maging isang guest of honor pa po para sa araw na ito sa closing ng ating pong National Coconut Week CocoKwentuhan. On behalf of the men and women of the House of Representatives, let me thank each and everyone for the success of the 35th National Coconut Week CocoKwentuhan. The success of this webinar proves that the spirit of bayanihan is alive amidst the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Indeed, collaborative undertaking and exchange of ideas help the government formulate policies and strategies towards agro-industrial development in the coconut industry. The invaluable assistance by the local government units and the private sector, the cooperative-led Negosyo made it a success. The goal of the coconut industry to increase the volume of production of quality coconut and to raise coconut farmers' income is no longer impossible. I have no doubt that our collective efforts and ideas will equip us to counter any challenges ahead with the coconut farmers as our stable partners towards a progressive coconut industry. Republic Act number 11524, the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act, will definitely help the industry soar to greater heights. The fund shall be utilized for specific programs aimed to further develop and modernize the industry, such as, and if I may again reiterate to the PCA and our guests for today, the development of hybrid coconut seed farms and nursery for planting and replanting, the training of farmers and their families as listed in the Coconut Farmers Registry, research, marketing, and promotion, crop insurance, farm improvements through diversification and intercropping, shared facilities for processing, organizing and empowerment of coconut farms organization and their cooperatives, credit programs, infrastructure development, scholarship program, health and medical programs. All dispositions or utilization of the trust fund or any portion thereof shall be in accordance with the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan, which shall be prepared in consultation with the stakeholders of the coconut industry. Gusto ko lang po idagdag na lubos ang aking paghanga kay Admin Benji Madrigal sapagkat bago pa po pumasa yung batas na ito, kanyang sinaga ang napakahirap pong trabaho na ayusin na ang mga sistema para lang madali na ang magiging proseso natin sa pag-develop ng ating plano. I salute you, Sir Benji, sapagkat ngayon lang kami nakaranas po ng liderato sa PCA tulad po ninyo. Thank you and congratulations, sir, to you and to the PCA family. Sa palagay ko po ay kumpleto na ang mga sangkap para mapabilis natin ang pag-unlad ng ating industriya ng pagnyunyog. And I know that it's been a very tedious process hearing various opinions, especially in the CocoKwentuhan segment of webinar segment. Maraming ideas, marami tayong gusto gawin, pero we will have to create only one unified position in order for us to develop the coconut industry. So this will help us realize our dream for a modernized coconut industry for the Filipino people, lalong-lalo na para sa ating mga magnunyog. kayang-kaya kung sama-sama. Let us do this together. Once again, congratulations PCA family, Admin Benji. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay po ang ating magnunyog.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Honorable Wilfredo Inverga. I would like to call on now our beloved DA Walter Partosa to award our plaque of appreciation to our esteemed guests.
Thank you, Leo. Allow me to read the plaque. Philippine Coconut Authority presents the plaque of appreciation to Honorable Wilfredo Mark M. Enverga, Representative 1st District of Quezon, in grateful acknowledgement and sincere appreciation for his valuable service as speaker in the Negosyo Seminar, CocoKwentuhan, Negosyo ang pag-usapan. Suporta ng industriya at gobyerno sa magnunyog ay asahan. As part of the 35th National Coconut Week celebration, given this 27th day of August 2021 at PCA Diliman, Quezon City, signed Administrator Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr., Administrator. Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you for this recognition. Thank you, sir.
Salamat din po, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Right. Maraming salamat po. And again, to our esteemed guests, thank you for spending time at sa pagpapaunlak sa atin dito sa CocoKwentuhan. To give her closing message and to finally wrap up our celebration via webinar here at the 35th National Coconut Week, we would like to call on PCA Deputy Administrator for Research and Development Branch, the Chair of CocoKwentuhan, DA Erlene C. Manohar.
Thank you, Darrell. Okay, for the closing of the webinar series 2021, on behalf of the Philippine Coconut Authority, would like to express our gratitude to our keynote speakers, presenters, reactors, and especially to our coconut farmers and of course the netizens. From day 1 to day 5, who shared their time despite the new normal situation. The messages of our keynote speakers inspired us on how the industry will be uplifted towards the welfare of the coconut farmers. Of course, we have Senator Cynthia Villar, Secretary William Dar, and the other speakers, and of course, the Honorable Wilfredo Mark M. Inverga. Of course, we would like also to thank our reactors, Sina Dr. Emil Javier po of CAM, si Mr. Roberto Gajo, Ariel Hernandez, Dr. Ray Velasco, our Undersecretary, si Ma'am Bless, our DTI Regional Operations Group, Dr. Reynaldo Ibora of DOST Picard, for their time and exerted efforts imparting their knowledge. Thank you po for your informative discussion. And of course, it's very important to thank our presenters who shared their success stories and inspired everyone. The elements of success po na pinakita at isinare ng ating mga cooperatives ay ito po dapat gayahin ng mga ibang cooperatives, mga ibang organization, and we encourage all our farmer organization to have a cooperative for you to achieve success. For the LGU-led presenters, of course, we are very thankful, and of course, we salute to the LGUs for your dedication to your constituents. For the private sector presenters, of course, yun pong kanilang share, yung kanilang partnership with different organization. Napakaganda po ng inyong pinakita at isinare, and sana the other private sectors should do the same. And for the organized group like BCOP, yun pong PACMA, UPCOPA, napakaganda po ng ginagawa ninyo para sa ating mga farmer organization. Sana ang mga organized group at magkaroon din po kayo ng sariling roadmap para po yung ating mga directions ay magtatagpo-tagpo for the welfare of our production sector. And yun pong sa government sector, we have of course from DOST, si Ma'am Agdepa, of course our very own Deputy Administrator Ruel Rosales. Okay, we are so thankful do sa engineer ninyo na mga dapat nating isagawa at ang what has been done. And lastly po, yung coconut R&D agenda, I think marami na po tayong na-share. And to Dr. Edna Aguilar for her efforts to putting together the webinar as the synthesis of all of these activities. To our host for the entire event, of course, si Darrell, for making this webinar lively and effectively serving as the MC of these activities. And to all the participants who eagerly supported the webinar series, we extend our gratitude to all of you. And of course, lastly, I don't have to forget the success of this webinar would not be possible without the efforts and hard work made by the following PCA personnel. Si Ma'am Rose Villaruel, sila po ang mga member ng ating webinar working committee, si Miss Bembem, si Cesar Kepo, si Maricel, si Lito, si Vera, and Sandy, at of course, very important, si Mariel, that she spent day and night in preparing all the materials for this webinar. And of course, to all regional focal persons who supported our cooperatives, who supported our LGUs in the preparation of their presentation, thank you very much. Sa kabuuan ng webinar series na ito, CocoKwentuhan, negosyo ang pag-usapan, suporta ng industriya at gobyerno sa magniniyog ay asahan. Ito po'y ating napatunayan. Pinagsama-sama ang mga key players sa industriya ng pagniniyog at ito ay maging sa pagkakaisa, makakanta natin ang pag-asa. At ito ay patunay na walang maiiwan sa pag-unlad ng higit sa lahat ang mga tao sa ilalim ng niyugan. Hindi dapat nating kalimutan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po so much, D.A. Erlene. And yes, it is a great honor for me to have been with you all throughout the whole celebration sa buong pagpapatakbo, 5 araw po ng CocoKwentuhan 2021 celebrating 35th National Coconut Week. On behalf of everyone who's making this possible, maraming salamat po to our esteemed guests. Sa lahat po ng dumalo via Zoom, nanood via Facebook at YouTube, sa bawat araw po ng ating Q&A discussion, sa mga active po na mga nagsisend ng questions, at sa mga gusto lang din pong matuto tungkol sa ating industriya, mga manginiyog at mga farmers, maraming salamat po. I hope you guys have a great weekend at stay safe po. And always wear a mask kung lalabas po. Pero with that aside, i-close up na po natin ang CocoKwentuhan. Maraming salamat po. And mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Welcome to the 35th National Coconut Week. This is the first time PCA will be doing a virtual exhibit. The objectives of this activity are to establish awareness of the importance of the coconut industry, to promote coconut products and byproducts and their benefits, and to encourage investments. We have 18 private companies producing various coconut products, participating on this virtual trade fair. and 2 government agencies. By using the mouse over and clicking the eye icon, our potential buyers will be able to see company information with contact details, address, and their product lines. By simply clicking icon button of the company, you will go directly to their booth. This is the Philippine Coconut Authority booth. All marketing collaterals like company banner, AVP, posters, and brochures. Contact information can also be found in the booth and the chat box for inquiries. In central setting, it showcases coconut products. All furniture are all made of coconut wood. The directory can also be found here. Coconut bioengineering technology. The technology refers to the use of coconut materials to stabilize slopes and minimize soil erosion by placing materials in sloping land and embankments. These materials hold vulnerable soil and permit vegetation to control soil surface erosion and conserve the productivity of the soil.